John. I'm about taking notes. I'm about fanning flames. And these guys are here to talk about games. Yes, it's the DF Retro Super Show, and we're entering into summer. I've got DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince going on in the background, and we're going to reminisce about E3 because I miss it. It used to happen every year for almost 20 years, and now it's gone. But in its place, we have Summer Games Fest, which isn't quite the same. But we thought today we would go through and talk about some of the great moments in E3 history, our personal experiences with E3, and generally reflect back on that sort of period, because I think the excitement around it is one of the reasons we probably got into games to begin with. But first, the cast. Making his return after a long exodus, we have Audie. He feels just like a purple Pikmin, Surly.
I'm ready to boom boom shake the room with you today. It's good to be back. Yeah, thanks so much. And what a topic, what a time, what a place. E3, man.
We shared an E3 together that we'll get to, and it was a very good time. We have some very good stories to share that I don't know if we've talked about before.
In brackets, at least. There's probably still stories we can't share for legal and sexual reasons, but either which way, there's things to discuss.
But of course, we're not alone. In the other chair, we have Mark, my body is ready, Duddleson.
I am so impressed with that intro you did. Like, usually you have to be like, wait, no, I want to do it again. Like, you just went for that one, and it's like the best one. Like, man, wow. You didn't even write that down.
You know, I was ready, baby, just like your body.
All our bodies are ready.
Indeed, including the fourth man. Not the third man, the fourth man, I'm afraid. This is not mid-90s NWO here. It's the man himself, Corey Carlson.
Hey, I'm back, ready to go. I was absent last week. No experience with 007, really. So it's good to be back talking about E3 and maybe a little CES.
But of course, there is a little CES action in here. But before that, head over to digitalfoundry.net. Check out the Patreon. We really appreciate the support of you guys making this podcast possible. And yes, I swear there will be some more proper DF Retro episodes coming soon. So look out for that. But for now, let's hop into the news / what we've been playing section of the show, where we talk about the news and what we've been playing. Starting with what Try's been playing. I want to talk about this. Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins for the PSP, famously trashed by Jeremy Parrish. It created a nightmare for him, as people were very angry about this. But this game is extremely controversial, I think, because it's super hard, as you'd expect from the series, but in some rather unique ways. And Try, I can't believe it. You've actually sat down and you went through the whole thing and you finished it. So this is not the Kai version. The Kai version is like an overhauled alternate version that was released in Japan. This is the original version.
Yeah, I played the American release, so it is infamously brutal, but I still was not prepared for just how brutal it is. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you're going through it, and you're like starting to question if you even like this series. like wait, did I enjoy these games when I played the other ones? I can't remember for sure. But yeah, this I just wanted to talk about this because it really was a uniquely brutal experience that I have gone through. Played it over 4 weeks of Monday backloggery streams, which are like 4+ hour streams. So it took a lot of time and effort. Kind of what's interesting about how brutal this game is that it kind of lulls you into this sense of security from time to time, because you've got a save system, as you would expect from the PSP. You've got the checkpoints before every boss, and the bosses are actually all pretty easy. So there's little things like that. There are warp staves. There's this kind of system where things that you need to proceed to the final boss, and some other optional items that sort of actually do make a big difference in playability, like the ability to reduce your magic costs and other things like that. You can use flying armor. You can use a shield that actually lets you fly for a while. Like there's all these little things. It's like, oh, this seems nice. This seems nice. But then you think, okay, instead of making you replay the whole game from the beginning, the infamous Ghosts and Goblins loop, that's what the warp staves are. Because you do have to revisit the levels and collect these gold rings and other things so you can proceed to the final boss. And you're like, okay, that's a clever twist. And you fight Astaroth as you do, and you still have to loop the whole game again. And they take away all your warp staves. And you have to find every single red chest in the game. Those hidden chests that just, you jump past a random trigger point and they appear. You have to find every single ring, which I think there's 33 gold rings in the game. You have to find all of these things to actually proceed to the true final boss. And it's madness. It is madness. And that's just to say nothing of the normal Ghosts and Goblins difficulty. I mean, even though, yes, you get flying armor, flying shields, all these nice things, and you end up beating the levels like at least 4 times over the course of finishing the game, it still continues to be so difficult. I know, John, you have more experience with the Kai version, which I think modified some things and maybe makes it a little more approachable, but you still never finished it.
No, I never really did. It's such a what a brutal game this is, right? Like it's exactly like you said, where the redesign kind of is like a balance tweak, and it plays out more like the arcade game, and it has like different enemy placements, and it actually has like limited continues and stuff like that. So it kind of yeah. And it actually, has proper lives and stuff. So it plays out more like the originals, I guess you could say. And it's like you do like a loop, I think, to finish it, and then you do the second loop. But it's not like the whole warp staff stuff. You're not like warping around and doing all that. So it basically just makes it a more straightforward version of the game.
Yeah. Like I said, the warp staffs basically make it so you end up playing every level at least 4 times, most likely.
Right.
It's insane. Yeah.
I do think it's cool game. It's an interesting idea. It's very, very brutal. But I mean, the series is known for that, and I think it's cool that they tried to do something different with it. They were like, "How can we evolve this formula?"
Yeah. But Corey, I'm hoping that when I get around to what was the new one called, Rebirth or
Resurrection?
Oh,
Resurrection.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't take you that long to get through that one, right?
No. I think that one dialed back a lot of the annoying stuff that was in was in Ultimate, but and kind of goes back to what was fun about the original ones, specifically the first 2, especially the way that it recycles. Well, I guess the first 3, so it recycles levels from those games.
Basically, I'm glad I did it. I get very stubborn about beating games by the original rules. I don't like using save states or, modifications to make them nicer. I'm glad that stuff exists for people who want it, but there's always this voice in the back of my head that's just like, you're not playing it by the real vanilla rules of the game. So I don't recommend anyone play through this game the way I did. But I am glad I did it,
So the question is did you play on real PSP hardware?
I ended up playing on PSTV because I was originally going to play on real PSP, but I've taken all of my batteries out of my PSPs out of fear of battery bloat. And I very quickly realized that it was going to be a problem because just a little bit in my PSP 3000, just a little bit of wiggling on that power connector can cause it to the system to reset. So
that's annoying. Okay.
Yeah, so I ultimately played on PSTV, but the input lag wasn't too bad. I used a DualShock 3, I had to use Adrenaline on my hacked PSTV, which can have a good bit of input lag, but it's better if you use a DualShock 3 instead of a DualShock 4. But the game is still 30 frames per second, which at the pace the game moves is not that terrible. But it was an okay way to play the game. But I would have preferred to have played on original hardware. But yeah,
The reason I mentioned that try is that actually ties into a second bit of news I wanted to mention today. Uh, from a developer note going by M-Sid, a new solution for PSP was released, allowing you to overclock the system way beyond the previously maximum 333 megahertz. Most systems can now reach 463 megahertz, but I think it's actually possible to go as high as like 500 something. And basically, this massive increase in clock speed allows you to overcome performance in games that had issues. So, like, now you can play something like Outrun 2 at a very smooth 60 instead of an unstable 60 with the normal overclock and like a horrible 20 to 30 with the stock speeds. It also means that some games have patches. A lot of the patches were designed for use on like the emulation, but you can actually apply them to real PSP games. And naturally, if normally if you just put the patch on, you're just removing the frame rate cap, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean your experience is good. But now that you can overclock it so far, this means we can take a bunch of games that were previously limited up to like 60 or even just a stable 30. So like this game, for instance, Ultimate Ghouls and Ghosts does have a patch, is from what I can tell, that allows you to run it at 60. So conceivably with this overclock, then you should be able to run it at 60 on the real hardware now.
my fallback solution was actually going to be PPSSPP, but it's interesting you yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the emulation though, because this was the first time. I mean, I've not used PPSSPP super extensively, but this was the first time I actually ran into a visual glitch that I could not get rid of.
Whoa.
Where the bloom effect like gets really glitchy in Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins. You can see it from the very first level. Anytime there's like an enemy that has like a bloom effect and the background like also does a bloom effect that like snaps on off, it's kind of bad. And I could not figure out how to get rid of it. It also happened for my friend Jumble, who was playing it alongside me on the Backloggery streams. Um, he was like, "What? I don't see the problem." And I pointed out, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I don't care." I'm like, "No, I will not play this game this way." So I spent a bunch of time getting it running on my hacked PS TV instead, just so I wouldn't have to deal with that issue. If anyone knows how to get rid of that bloom glitch in PPSSPP in Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins, please tell me, because
I love how
I'm
you,
very
yeah,
very
you
curious.
spell it out every time.
Because it would be cool to play this with a 60 FPS
I agree.
hack, and I would be curious to see that running on original hardware. Or can you use this mod on PSTV or Vita? Do you know, John? Or
Oh, I don't know. Because to use these patches involves, there's like an application, I forget what it's called, that you use on a custom firmware system that allows you to like apply patches to games. And if you can do that on the PSP side of the PSTV, then it should work.
right? I mean,
I
in
just don't
Adrenaline,
know.
right? It's like a
Right.
whole PSP.
Right. So it should technically be possible, I would imagine. And who knows? I mean, maybe the PSTV can be overclocked like crazy high.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
I mean,
don't
it
know.
already has been, I think, to some extent for Vita games on there.
yeah. And just by default, by the way, playing PSP games on a Vita, it does run faster than a stock Vita.
Oh, I didn't
Like,
know that.
yeah, like I
Or,
noticed,
or you mean a stock PSP?
sorry, a stock PSP, right? So, like, you play Maverick Hunter X, for instance, it always that's a 60 FPS game, but whenever the boss shows up, there's always a lot of slowdown for that logo crawl. But on a PS Vita, it just naturally runs at full speed. It also runs at full speed on a normal 333 overclocked Vita. It's so it was always just like limited by the
I
hardware.
did not know that. Interesting. To be honest, I've never really been clear on what the backwards compatibility mechanism for PSP on Vita is. Like, I
I
don't
think
know if it's hardware,
It's an
emulation,
emulator, I think.
quasi emulation. I've never known.
I actually forget. I may have known at some point, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I just know that the resolution they picked for Vita is exactly
Yeah.
4 times the pixel count, so everything would
Yeah.
Yeah.
scale super cleanly, which was
Two on
awesome.
each axis. Yeah.
Yep, which was a good idea. So,
Oh, yeah.
all right.
Wait,
Anyway,
well, Well, I do want to ask really quick. I want to ask
Okay.
Try if he would rate this game higher than a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think I would give it
A 3?
I'd probably give it a 5
Okay.
out of 10.
Out of 10.
Okay.
Not out of 50.
Not out of 50, no.
So 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
So slightly better. That's funny.
It's a solid 5. Yeah.
I remember
think
that
it's-
review.
Yeah, I mean, and Jeremy got a lot of shit for it. I think unfairly so, because people aren't able to understand that everybody has different opinions on stuff. But either way, I like that game, but I did prefer the Mega Man remakes they did for PSP. I love Maverick Hunter X or Irregular Hunter X and Rockman. Those are freaking great.
The voice acting in Maverick Hunter X in the US version is hilarious.
Yeah.
I've not
X
heard
is
it.
so intense. He just screams every single line pretty much.
Looks like
Yes.
you've got Maverick.
Oh, dude, I need to check that.
You're
version
insane.
out. You're insane.
I do enjoy those Mega Man games on PSP a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great. They're great.
Pretty
I
good.
can understand why the Mega Man 1 remake was not Mega Man Powered Up didn't
Powered
sell
Up,
very
yeah.
well. I mean, I
Right.
think that for people that were looking for Mega Man games, seeing something that looked like that was probably not very appealing, but I thought it was great. It was very
is
fun.
great.
It was
I
like,
agree.
like a chibi-eyed kid version of it.
Yeah,
Man,
I
can
think
we
can
today
just
will probably be
pivot?
better.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we just pivot to doing a PSP episode?
We need
Like,
to do more
I'm all
preparation for that.
Yeah.
I'm all in a PSP mood now. I'm joking, of course.
I'm
I
not
do think
because I have a bloated. Yesterday, I was dealing with my battery and it's bloated.
Oh.
So I can't play it right now, which frustrates me because it's only a year since I changed it out.
Mhm.
So
Check those lithium-ion batteries, everybody.
That's a new battery that you bought?
yeah,
Like
it's a third party
aftermarket
one though.
battery?
So I'm suspecting something to do with
that's
that.
crazy.
But yeah,
I've
Been
never
sitting in a
bought-
warehouse for 10 years.
Yeah. probably
I
right.
really need to buy some kind of replacement battery for my PSP. Maybe people in the comments can give us some
Right.
good links to good ones, because it is difficult to play my PSP without battery in it, because I am so nervous about
Yeah.
wiggling that power adapter. And
Man, I've never had a swollen battery on any of my PSPs, including my launch day one. They're perfect. They still work.
people just like overwhelmingly recommend that you take them out as a precaution.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It's just I'm surprised because like they all still work. Amazing.
Yeah.
Mine
Although
did too
it's-
when I took them out, but I
The
just
system
decided to play
from
it
that
safe.
era that impresses me the most though is the Game Boy Micro.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like I haven't used the micro that much in a long time because it's so small, right? That's the whole thing. But I turned mine on in the last month because I saw it in a drawer. I haven't charged it in like 10 years. It still turns on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
was like,
literally,
what? How?
I had literally never even charged mine until maybe like 6 years ago.
It's
Like,
crazy.
Because I bought it more as like a collector's item,
Yeah,
just because
same,
at that
same.
time I had every Game Boy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy the Famicom Game Boy Micro. I used it in a couple of videos, but never like really played it. And then I was like setting up like a Game Boy charging station. I'm like, I literally don't even know what power adapter goes on this. I don't recognize this port. And then I found the adapter and it still had the zip, the like the twist tie on it. I'm like, I've literally never charged this thing, and it just
Yeah.
works.
And the DS, well, at least the DS Lite
Yeah.
definitely had a battery that just lasted forever. I think we're going to see a huge epidemic, though, in the next 10 years where people's batteries are just going to bulge. Like, they're going to find their old systems in a drawer, and it's just going to be, like, cracked open and stuff from the battery. Exploding.
Yeah, that's a shame, man. I don't
Controllers,
like
all
this
kinds
thing.
of stuff
Yep,
is going to
yep,
happen
yep.
with.
Oh boy. Yep. But anyway, we'll get to that once our controllers start exploding. But for now, let's move on to the next bit of news. One that really excited me as well. Castlevania Circle of the Moon is being ported to the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, and there's a full demo out. That's the entire first area of that game. We talked about this on our GBA launch episode. This was the launch Castlevania for Game Boy Advance. And yeah, it now is like it's crazy. It's really cool to see. And it's a weird combo because they tried very closely, or they tried very hard to retain the original art, right? So all the sprites, background ties, it's all derived from GBA, but obviously the palette's been shifted to work in the Mega Drive. But they've kept the pixel size, which basically means now it just increases the field of view that you see. The original game was more widescreen with that sort of GBA aspect ratio, and now it's like proper 4:3, which basically means you see more of the game world above and below. But other than that, like it feels like surprisingly faithful. Like, yes, fewer colors, you can certainly tell that, but I feel like they did a good job with the conversion, and the soundtrack conversion is awesome. It sounds really good on that sound chip. It's a really nice version of the music.
I have not tried this yet, but I'm really curious about how it was ported technically, because if you're increasing the field of view, like, are they actually like relying on the original game code underneath it? And,
I don't
does
know.
that not
It's
create
probably being
problems? Like,
rebuilt with like SGDK or something like
Right.
that. So,
But if yeah,
yeah,
probably. If you look at that first area, like that first cutscene, right?
mm.
You see the top is like framed like the Game Boy Advance screen, but you actually see the brick area
Ah,
below the floor, which is where you're going to
right.
drop to next. But it's almost like, you're
Where
seeing
you
what you
see it.
shouldn't see,
Yeah.
but it works. It works okay.
It's cool seeing these ports though to the Mega Drive or Genesis, because recently there was I think this has been in the works for a while, but there was a Rondo of Blood port also to the Mega Drive.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And the Symphony of the
That
Night.
yeah,
And yeah, there's plenty of like ports being done that we've seen like one level demos of. So hopefully some of them will come to full fruition.
I wonder what it is about Castlevania games that people just want to put those on the Genesis or Mega Drive.
I mean, the Mega Drive is just popular to work on, and I do think part of it, people love the system, but I do think part of it is that because it's a Motorola 68,000 base system, it's just like that was such a prolific CPU, and it's one that people like working with, that I think it makes it like a really great candidate for just, porting stuff. Plus SGDK is awesome, and it's really it's opened the door to like just like making it easy to actually develop games for the system. I mean, even stuff like Eartheon I think uses it, right?
Yeah.
Which
So
I so like old school guys that worked on this hardware are still like using it and embracing it. And it is
Mhm.
just like a development environment for the Mega Drive that handles a lot of the annoying stuff that you might have otherwise had to deal with from back then. So I think that is just awesome.
yeah, it's a question that comes up a lot with the aftermarket stuff, is why there's so much focus on Mega Drive, and it really just comes down to documentation and available tools, because Super Nintendo is getting more focused now, but for many years, you did see a few like that fighting game, which I forget, Undead something, and a few others.
Mm,
But they're
Oh,
kind
like
of
Undead
simplistic.
Knights or something
Yeah,
like that.
Undead Knights, I think it was, which was from former SNK people, but it runs like
Mhm.
garbage. Um, and just it was much more of a limited market for the Super Nintendo, and it really just came down
Right.
to proper documentation and especially then tools, which the Mega
Mhm.
Drive has had
right, right,
a
right.
10-year run ahead of Super Nintendo.
It does exactly. It's actually that's another one to mention real quick is Maldita Castilla.
Mm.
Yeah.
That awesome game that's getting an
Awesome
official
game.
Mega Drive version, and including a cart release. They actually released a demo just recently, and it's
Oh.
really good, right?
I-
And
Is
it's like,
that
Mhm.
is that
That's Curse
Chris
Castilla.
Castilla from
Yeah.
yeah,
Loco
yeah, yeah,
Molito?
correct.
Yeah.
It's that
Okay.
game, but it's getting an actual Mega Drive port. So again, it's like it's just cool as heck to see this stuff, and I love that the system remains so vibrant.
I
And I
mean,
do hope that Super NES starts to catch up, and also PC Engine. Like, I mean, there is some PC Engine homebrew, and we have some of it, but it's pretty rare. I feel like people don't make much for the PC Engine.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
FX Unit Yuki
Yep,
came
yep,
out,
yep.
Yep.
and then the Jesse Casper or something, like the Indiana Jones like girl game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And I mean, even as we record this, we just got an official announcement of Cuphead coming to Master System. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, It's
that's
weird to see
insane.
like these things officially coming back onto
Yeah.
these
So
systems,
good.
but I love it. I
And
mean, I've been collecting aftermarket stuff since early 2010s, if not a little bit before. So for
and,
me,
uh,
this is good news.
and apparently Cuphead is actually being developed in assembly.
That's what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which a lot, as I mentioned, SGDK is super cool, and it has opened the door to making it easier to work on the system. But if you go back like 10 years, you have something like Matt Phillips' Tanglewood, which he
Yep.
actually
Yeah.
also did 100% like assembly build. So
Wow.
like that was all like his own code,
He
figuring out the system from scratch,
Yeah.
which was
yeah,
really
he
cool.
did that like on a
So
real development unit.
Yeah, he
Didn't-
actually used like real Sega development hardware to make it and
Wow.
everything. Like he
Yeah.
really did it the old school, pretty hard mode way, I would say, especially given
Yeah.
that there's just not a lot of people that do it these days. But
Mhm.
SGDK has definitely helped a lot. So
yeah, even Randy
Yeah.
Linden came back for Doom Super Nintendo, and that was done with
that's
some of
that's
his
true.
old
That's true.
dev environment on
Mm.
Amiga. So he went back to do it old school way. So you could still do that, which
Yeah.
is also really impressive and cool.
Well, it's fun to be able to go to those old development environments and probably use everything that you've learned since.
Yeah.
It's very much the if I knew then, what I know now
Mhm.
type
Right.
scenario.
Exactly. All right. Next up, actually connecting back to our conversation from earlier about Maverick Hunter X. Are you insane? Well, somebody was insane because they decided to make a new Mega Man X game without Capcom, and it's called Gemini-X, and it was revealed this week. And our good friend Sean Bilo actually did the soundtrack for it.
Yep.
And I think this looks mostly really cool, except for the run cycle, which I
Man.
don't like. Like I feel like he's
Same
like
thing.
bent over, and he's like
It's very
like,
it's very robotic in a way, which I guess kind of makes sense. But
uh,
the rest of
it
his
doesn't
movements are much more dynamic. So
compared to actual like Mega Man X games.
yeah,
Like I think the anime
needs more
that's the one
determination.
thing. Yeah, I really think they should work on that, but because everything else aesthetically looks freaking great. Like I love the visual design, of course, the music, everything they're going for here. It's like about 90% of the way to what I want from like a spiritual Mega Man X follow-up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Komi
Yeah.
Games have been around for a while. It's Julian Spillani's company up in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
Hence why Sean Bilo is attached to it.
Mhm.
I got to see this a while ago, but it's finally announced. So you all should go wishlist it. It's a little bit ways out, so I think some of our concerns can probably be answered by the time it comes out. I think the main character is definitely the thing I would point out needing a little bit more work. But it's an interesting concept of combining Metroidvania with Mega Man X.
Mhm.
You've kind of seen hints of it in actual Mega Man X games in the past,
Mhm.
Right.
but this one's kind of fully fulfilling that
Yeah.
merge. So I'm interested in seeing where this
It
game
does
goes.
visually look great. I love like the use of color and everything in
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I
I'm
agree.
looking at it on Steam. I've literally just now wishlisted it on the Steam.
Yeah,
app.
same here.
And you should too. Looking good, looking good. But there's one more topic before we get to the meat of the show. This is one that I haven't gotten one to check out yet, but you've been looking at the Pixel FX Morph 2K lately, and I think Bob put up something on this already from Retro
He did.
RGB.
Yep.
And basically the pitch here is this is from Pixel FX. It's like a modern scaler that's for targeting 1080p, but it's sold at a much, much lower price than the other, scaler options out there right now, including the bigger Morph and of course the RetroTink 4K. So as a budget option, how do you feel about this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think ultimately a product is only as good as its price, right? And when you see what the price is, which is $200, uh, I think it makes a lot of sense because it does fit in neatly into a place that a segment of the market that's not really served. Because this is the lowest priced kind of scaler that's designed for gaming from the ground up that includes motion adaptive deinterlacing. Because if you go down to say the OSSC, the original OSSC, that's still like mid $100 ish, probably 130 to 150, 160, depending on what model you buy. Which is a fantastic option if you're not really playing any interlaced content. I mean that thing still looks so good. Every time I try it out again, I'm like, man, I forgot how good this thing is. Um, and then, of course, there's the RetroTink 2X options. I'm a big proponent of the 2X Mini for people who just use composite or S video. Great option for people who just want to play an unmodified N64, for instance. But then if you look at the other mid-range options, I mean, let's make no mistake, the RetroTink 4K Pro is still the best of the best. And the 4K CE is not too many steps down from that as well. But if you look at the tier of product that the Morph 2K is competing with, it's competing more with the OSSC Pro and the RetroTink 5X. And those are both over $300. And this is $200. So
5X just got an update too, so it's still supported.
Oh yeah, I mean the 5X is a fantastic product, and to be honest, I have not spent quite enough time with this yet to really assess like how close it is to the current state of the 5X. And to be honest, I've not spent enough time with the current firmware of the 5X to really assess, because my chi does go insane on keeping those things up to date. But even if this doesn't end up quite matching the 5X, the fact of the matter is it's a whole lot cheaper and does probably most of what most people would want out of it. And I haven't really spent any time looking at like the CRT effects and stuff. Obviously at 1080p, you're not going to be getting quite as high fidelity on that stuff, but it can still look good. And I think this can go up to 1200p and maybe 1440p.
I think it does 1440p.
Well. I think it does 1440p as well. Okay. So just like the 5X does that as well. And I believe the OSSC Pro does as well. But the OSSC Pro, much more sort of specialist enthusiast device if you really want to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the sampling and upscaling, and it has its add-on boards and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. The OSSC Pro is kind of becoming like the de facto downscaling device.
Yeah. And so this, however, from what I've used of it, it's like shockingly simple. If you just want to like set it and go, I mean, it just automatically samples correctly for, the system you've plugged into it. You can hit the red button to do an auto crop that, fills the screen larger. So I'll make some comparisons for Corey, but I think that price point is very powerful. They clearly saw that, okay, here is a price point that market is not being met. It's kind of funny to think like people would have maybe turned their noses up at $200 upscaling a few years ago, but now like original hardware retro gaming is starting to seem like the more affordable hobby compared to modern consoles and modern PC gaming. I think it's just super cool to see products, new electronics being able to be introduced at what feels like a very reasonable price. So I'm looking forward to putting more time into this. I want to do a video on my life in gaming that will be kind of looking at some of the other alternatives that have come up in the intervening years since we've really kind of looked at some of the more mid-range stuff. I mean, I'm just really happy to see a product being offered at that price point. I think that's the most important thing. And from what I've tried so far, it does the job it needs to do for a $200 product and then some, honestly. So
it's great. Really, really cool. All right. With that, we've cleared the news and it's time to move on to our historical E3 segment. So get ready, grab yourself a snack, and pretend that we're about to have the best press conference you've ever seen, or not. But we're getting to it anyway. So we'll be right back. 1995, there was a time where I subscribed to a magazine called Electronic Entertainment. It was E2 Electronic Entertainment because it was those two words together. And it wasn't until shortly after that I started reading about something called E3. And I was like, wait, is this related to this magazine? Like, what's going on? But no, it's an event. And even way back in the middle of 1995, via the power of magazines, I was reading up on the things that were happening at E3 because E3 was the big show for video games. It ran from 1995 until I guess roughly 2021 ish. Like, there was like an online version at one point, I think, during the
2020,
Corona
yeah.
pandemic. But either way, it has died off. I would say the final E3 was 2019. That was
that was the
real end of
final
E3,
real one, yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
which we were at.
Yeah,
But
we were at the tail end.
exactly. But before we talk about that stuff and our experiences and different impressions and memories of E3, it is worth mentioning quickly like where it came from,
Yeah.
right? Because before E3 1995, there was CES. There still is CES today, the Consumer Electronics Show. This is where companies around the world come to show off the latest electronics gadgets and now like everything AI powered because
Yeah.
why not? There's a lot of that happening. But back in the early 90s, this was kind of like the one of the only places where Nintendo and Sega and other game companies could really show off their new wares. But from what we understand, they didn't feel that they were being treated well, often relegated to like outside areas, tents, basically spots within the convention that were less than optimal compared to what everybody else was getting. And as
Video
a
games
result,
weren't cool.
no, exactly. I think Sega even ran its own show a couple years somewhere in there. And it wasn't like there was no real American or English speaking game show that was targeting fans of video games, right? I don't know, Tokyo Game Show might have already been happening
Oh
back
yeah,
then.
that was definitely it. That was
Yeah,
definitely a
and
thing then.
there was definitely shows in Japan happening in the 80s, 90s, but elsewhere not so much. But from what I understand, one of the guys from GamePro, I think Pat Farrell, uh, who was part of the IDG group,
Mm.
which also might have been the group that published the Electronic Entertainment magazine. If I maybe not, I can't remember. Yeah, it was IDG. It was IDG. So there's actually weirdly enough a relationship there directly. And those guys basically worked together to start the show. And this happened in 95 when CES was actually going to run a second show in Chicago in the summer. And they were kind of like giving publishers a choice. Like, do you want to come to CES or do you want to come to E3? And eventually, I guess, for whatever reason, the guys in charge of CES gave it up because Nintendo and other companies were going to go with CES while Sega and others were going with E3. So it was split. But when CES canceled that show, everybody went ahead and invested money and effort into E3, and we got E3 1995, which happened at the LA Convention Center during its first year. And E3 1995, I think we can all agree, was a pretty huge one. At the time I only read about this stuff in magazines. We've since seen a lot of footage, but this was the year where Sony and Sega basically brought their next generation consoles to the table in North America. They'd already launched in Japan back in 94, right? But Sega came to the show and launched the Saturn, right? This is that famous incident where Tom Kalinske got up and said, "Hey, the Saturn's out right now." And it didn't go well. Needless to say, they did not supply all their partners with enough units, and there wasn't enough software at launch. It was considered a big mistake, and I think it was sold for $399. And then famously, Sony comes to their press conference. They got Steve Race up there talking about it. He just gets up to the mic and says $299.
Yeah,
that's the price. And then mic drop, right? And that the rest is history.
Yep.
But there's so much more that happened at E3 beyond that, including a lot of Atari Jaguar stuff, but also like 32X and like basically everything you could imagine, I would say, like from video games at this time. And it was a crazy time, was happening at this show. So obviously, I mean, Nintendo was just bringing their wares, right? Like Killer Instinct Super NES. There's Donkey Kong Country 2. I think Secret of Evermore was there from Square. Earthbound, I think, was represented. A bunch of Game Boy games. They had their wares, and I think there may have been some teasing of what they wanted to do with Ultra 64, but this was not yet the year of that. Meanwhile, I know Jaguar was there in a big way. I think Audie,
the biggest.
You've probably seen a lot of this footage, but there is like hours of footage out there of like everything Jaguar, right?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see just how much, because when did that even, I think it had been out on the market for a bit, but it was kind of like a second wind for them, right?
Yeah, I think it was late
attempting.
93 maybe that
Yeah.
it came out.
So this is kind of like the last bastion of Atari trying to get this thing across, and what a year to do it, because you have all these, like, you have 3DO still there as well, but you have like PlayStation, Saturn right around the wing, and it's just like there's just no hope for it. It's like watching, like, Glendale Archives, but in video game form, when you see like the Jaguar floor at E3. It's just very airy and kind of sad. But it's also very fittingly Jaguar. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Do the
I
math,
agree.
though, Audie. Do the math.
Yeah, I did the math. It's 0. So it's not very.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I think that would have been the year there was a fair number of games shown there that never came out, including like I think that's where Rayman 32X was spotted at one point. Um
Oh,
was that where what was the one there's like Thea Realm Fighters
Yeah,
for Jaguar. Was that shown there? Because I feel like
I
there was like
believe so.
prototypes of stuff that never came out that were shown at the show as well.
So the prototypes are now out. Thanks to Nick, our friend, who's always at JagFest. So there's 2 prototypes of Thea Realm Fighters. For those who aren't aware of it, it is basically a digitized fighter with the original cast from Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, or some of them, like Pacina and Hong So Pak and those guys. So that was shown off there. And based on the prototype we do have, I don't think it would have lit the Jaguar world on fire. But
Or
nonetheless,
maybe in the negative sense.
maybe. For the Jaguar, it is an interesting and somewhat technically good-looking game. But nonetheless, it was not what people wanted. Well, they didn't want a Jaguar, so I guess that's kind of the issue at hand to begin with. So, but that was shown off there.
Another thing that was shown off, Audie, and I don't know, maybe you guys remember this, but this was the year that Williams Entertainment and I guess Midway kind of like started to create their own ports and publish their own games, including Mortal Kombat 3 for PlayStation, which was not done by Acclaim, right? But at E3 that year, they had multiple stage shows where they actually had performers come out on the stage representing, they had Mortal Kombat characters. They had, I think, Doom related stuff happening.
wow.
It was like a whole event, right? And it's hilarious. They're just like, oh, Mortal Kombat 3. And then this like stone door opens up and like they like just run out. And it's like Liu Kang, Jax, and maybe Sonya Blade.
It's Sonya, yeah. I think it is Carrie Hoskins, actually.
Oh, it's actually her. Okay,
I think
cool.
so. Because this was around the time where the MK live tour or live show was going on with them. I think it's the same actors that's on that live show at E3.
Oh,
so it's kind of like an extension of what they were doing there. It's on YouTube where you can see like they did a TV presentation on it, and it's very hokey but also fantastic.
It's interesting to me to think about, having all that kind of show pizzazz going on and bringing in these people to perform and stuff, when ultimately this is, before the era of people being able to watch this stuff live. They're mostly for journalists, right? So like who are they really benefiting from all the money
not correct
spent on this stuff at this time? I'm just curious.
Not correct, Try.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I'm curious. What was the benefit?
I would say the main purpose of the show back then was actually for retail and like sellers and other customers, right? It was like a direct communication line to everybody that would be purchasing the products for their stores and stocking this stuff, right?
Exactly.
So yes, journalists were there, but it was a trade show first and foremost. And these
Mm.
guys were there to be like, hey, Sears or Walmart,
Yeah.
buy our stuff. It's the best, you know. And so they put on big flashy shows for that, right?
Yeah,
I see.
you
Okay,
can
that
actually
makes
trace
sense.
that. You can trace that sort of back to the American film market shows that were going on, which has been going on since the 70s, I think. And because you have a lot of international investors as well as wholesalers and such, and it is kind of part of like they're coming from overseas with a lot of money and a lot of customers, and they're seeing the great big American spectacle. And that's kind of where, and you, American film market did that exact same thing for a lot, like Canon Films and all those kind of companies you've heard of like the B movie genre. A lot of them would do the same for movies. So E3 was just kind of like an extension of that, and that's kind of why you're having the booth babes eventually. I think booth babes was even a thing by this point.
But they were at CES.
They were
Yeah,
at CES.
exactly.
They were in, cosplayers and stuff were in Tokyo
Mhm.
in the mid '80s when the arcade trade shows were going on. So it's not a new concept or anything, but that is kind of prevalent uh, through all of the markets, not just video games.
Yeah,
And
they're just wooing the retailers.
Hey.
Yeah,
Gotta do it.
exactly. And that so
and it worked.
It worked.
Yeah, it absolutely did work, and that's that's kind of how it started off.
Was this the same
Uh,
show where Killer Instinct had like their stage show with the dancers and stuff?
Ooh, that's possible because I know
Yeah.
Killer Instinct was a big Super NES title that year,
Right.
so
Because that's
they
on
would have
YouTube
had-
as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, thankfully. Some other things that happened that event, the Virtual Boy was shown off again.
Yeah.
Was it out yet? I can't remember when that actually launched.
I think
but-
it was the summer.
So this would have been
kind of like the last.
Okay. This would have been Nintendo's like major like push to launch this new system, right? They did tease Ultra 64 at the show, but Virtual Boy was like their new machine, and I guess this would have been the show to have it at. And that's also something where I guess they would need to convince retailers to go for it. So having hands-on demo units of this thing was really important. But it was there. Sony showed off stuff like Ridge Racer. I think Toshinden was there. NBA Jam TE was in there. A few other games like that. And yeah. Sony made a big splash there. Sega, of course, had stuff like Panzer Dragoon on display, Virtua Fighter, other games like that. I think Resident Evil was at least mentioned, as in like this is something like in Capcom's like lineup coming at some point, but I don't think it was shown yet. And I think even stuff like Turok was shown, or at least referenced as like this is a thing that's in development for the future, because this wasn't the first year did not focus on N64 yet, because and let's look at this. Let's kind of break this up. I want to look at first at E3 95 through 2000 in this kind of period, and then we'll do like 2001 to like 2005 ish, and then the period after that kind of.
Before even going into that, did you all discover this through magazines, or like were you all aware of this in '95?
Oh, it's definitely. I didn't know about E3 in '95, I guess, but because CES was still kind of a thing at that point.
Because
at least there was the two a year at that point.
I definitely had heard some news that must have surely come out of E3, but I was only, I had only just gotten a Super Nintendo for Christmas '94, and before that I only had NES and Game Boy, so I didn't have like the most current hottest stuff, and so I wasn't really following new games until pretty much this year, actually. Like I was like, this was the year that I was starting to be like, I am looking forward to what's coming next. But I missed E3. I wasn't really reading game magazines regularly yet. I didn't have any subscriptions. I actually, I know this is after the good era of Nintendo Power, but I got a Nintendo Power subscription toward the end of '96. So the first time I was really aware of E3 would have been '97, where they were actually in Atlanta for 2 years. So I was under this impression for a number of years that, oh, this is a show in Atlanta. This is on the East Coast. Like this seemed kind of accessible to me. Like I kind of wanted to see if I could go. But then it was years later I realized like, oh, they was only there for 2 years.
It's interesting when you say accessible, because that was going to be kind of like the little thing I was going to share here was like, for me, I did discover this as it was, in the magazines in '95, because I had EGM, I had GamePro, I subscribed to them, and I've talked about it before on the show that like that kind of opened my eyes to so much stuff in the US that I just couldn't even dream of having because it was never released here and shit like this. But for me, I had grown up with the games market in Leipzig. I never went, but in Germany, there used to be like this big games market for Commodore, Amiga, PC games, some console as well. But that was kind of like a big show that was always noted in Commodore format and stuff like that. And that seemed super accessible to me. So I was like, well, one day I can go see new Commodore games, I'm sure in person. And then, uh, they didn't last long enough for that. I did go to the Leipzig show eventually, but not in that era. But for me, the idea of even going to E3, especially as it grew from '95 and upwards to what we're going to talk about, that seemed completely inaccessible. And I only dreamt of going, especially as they started like live streaming them and whatnot. So it's interesting that you say that it felt accessible because for a European like myself, it was completely inaccessible.
Well, and there were ways to get like some sort of like underage like press badge or something like that because I wrote for a website in my teenage years back then. It was N64 Code Palace and then later Techno Gaming. No one has ever heard of them. But the guy that ran that site, he was actually a year or two younger than me, I think. I think a year younger than me. And he did go to E3 a few years, actually made some connections. Like he had like um connections with Ubisoft and stuff like that that he built up going to E3 just as like a 13-year-old kid. And um we were actually able to get like we were obviously very, very, very low on their list, but we did get like review copies of like PS1 and N64 and Dreamcast games and stuff. That was something that you were even someone who's like a kid running a fan site in those days could actually get into E3. But I think shortly after he went to those shows, no one under I don't remember what the age was, but I think you had to be like 18 or older or something to get in, maybe 16 or older. I'm not sure, but yeah, it kind of became inaccessible for teenagers for a time there. So
Indeed, indeed. And actually, I think about E3, like this period from 95 to maybe 98, those first 3 or 4 years, whatever. That was the year where E3 for me was viewed through magazines exclusively.
It
And then
completely.
once we got to 1999, I believe that's when we started to actually be able to experience it in video to a very
yeah.
limited degree.
Well, I
Yeah.
remember even 90, at the very least 98, if not 97. I remember, I distinctly remember downloading videos of like Ocarina of Time because I'll never forget that like I get this downloading, I go mow I go mow the lawn and it is still downloading. And it's, this tiny crappy quality video, but uh modems back then, at least what we had, man, it took so long to download those videos. But I remember watching those like just this tiny little crappy video of the Forest Temple and other Ocarina of Times videos. So it had to have been at least 97 or 98 with some video uploads to I don't know, IGN 64 and stuff like that probably.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mention it, they first showed it in like December 95 at Shoshinkai, right? And I actually have these vague memories of seeing very early, like this very simple videos of it running when I was still in grade school because I watched it in the underground library at the grade school. So this would have been 95 or early 96. So I guess there were ways to get some very limited videos. I think sometimes it actually came from like magazine discs as well.
Yeah, I
You
was
would
gonna
often get
say
like
PlayStation demo discs here. Some the thing about it
Mm.
though, because we're going over now this stuff, but it's like at that time, those clips were not highlighted so much as like an E3 thing. It was much more just like you're talking about Ocarina of Time and whatnot. It was just like people were trying to source that. I think when E3 became more like it's E3 time and now you can download and check out this stuff as an event was 98. That's at least how I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure this stuff was going on like concurrent when I was downloading those videos, but it could have also been stuff from Space World. I mean, you know, I'm not 100% positive, but I do know that certainly before, at the very least, before Ocarina of Time came out, which would have been late '98, that I was very much involved with like seeking out videos of games I was excited about that were shown at these shows, whether it was E3 or Tokyo Game Show or Space World, whatever.
Oh, one other thing I didn't mention that was shown at E3 1995, and I did see this in the magazine, was the Panasonic M2.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna note the M2 when I mentioned
they
the
were
video.
all they. This just shows how much stuff was at the first E3, and
It's
I remember
insane.
specifically the screenshot in the magazine that I read showed it was like a cow standing next to a fence, and they were showing off bilinear filtering by
Yep.
showing them standing next to the fence. In one shot, it was super pixelated, and the other was super smooth. They're like, "This is what bilinear filtering can do," and I was like, "Huh."
I remember M2. Edge had like a huge rollout of information on the M2, and I was so into D from Kenji Ino that I was hyped for it.
Which was
Um,
also shown at E3.
I think like Video Game Esoterica. I think he has like those demos. Like he actually
Oh
physically
wow,
has
okay,
he has them. So maybe one
that's
day
cool.
when we do like an episode about this, we can invite him on.
So, yeah, E3 95 came and went. 96 was also in LA. And this was another big year. And again, I lived this mostly through magazines, and some of them I very specifically remembered. One of the biggest pieces of news to come out of this show for me, this is the year that Unreal and Unreal Engine made its debut. Like Unreal Engine is so prevalent today, but it was E3 96 where Epic first showed this off and unveiled like their next generation 3D engine. And this was at a time in the world where id was about to launch Quake, Duke Nukem 3D was hitting. We knew about 3D Realms Prey. Like this was like the period where tons of first person shooters and like 3D engines were all starting to take off. And Epic of Jazz Jackrabbit fame, and they threw their hat into the ring as well. That was a really big deal, and I specifically remember then that would dominate magazine covers off and on over the next few years, where it'd be like, yes, this is a screenshot and stuff like this. It was crazy. It's called Unreal because it is. 96 also saw the reveal, the full reveal of Tomb Raider. StarCraft was premiered. Warcraft 2 was a huge deal at this time, and I guess Diablo was either out or just about out. So StarCraft was their next big strategy game. We knew how big that would become. This is also the year where Naughty Dog unveiled Crash Bandicoot. Developers of Way of the Warrior 3DO, they came out with their very first, uh, as they called it, like Sonic ass game or something, where it's like where it was a 3D platform where you run into the screen. But this was also the year where we saw Super Mario 64, right? So Nintendo really brought the N64. But this is like where 3D platform games really started to flourish. This is where we really saw what developers who had been trying to figure it out finally started to unveil. Like obviously Naughty Dog was like, "Hey, what if we do a 2D style game but like you move into the camera?" Nintendo went full open world with it. And I think this is the show famously where the guys at Eidetic that were making Bubsy
Bubsy
3D
3D.
saw Mario and were like, "Oh, we're screwed."
Yeah, I mean, poor guys, right? Because like, you can totally get it. Because I think if you go back and play Bubs 3D, it's never going to be a great game or anything, but it is
No.
interesting technically. And they were trying to figure out something that everyone else was trying to figure out at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time.
exactly.
But then they saw Mario and it's just like, we didn't figure this out. And then
I
they
mean,
knew.
Nintendo figured it out harder than anyone else for sure.
Yeah,
But
of course they
Crash is
also
still good, and
much better
you know,
budget, but
and Tomb Raider does its own thing. I actually appreciate that all these games from this era were doing things differently. But yeah, obviously, Nintendo's take became the template.
I mean, Tomb Raider to me was like that's why I remember the most because to me that was I think I mentioned this
That was
before.
real.
Like it was the natural evolution of like flashback and
Yep, it sure
the
was.
cinematic
Yeah.
platformer, or cinematic action games, whatever you want to call them. And so I was super excited. I don't think I was as excited when I finally played it because I found it a little bit too puzzle heavy.
Oh, I love it, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
at the time I played it, I was just not in the mood for it. But now I really appreciate them.
Yeah, I mean, it holds up today because developers didn't use Tomb Raider as the template going forward, right? And so it holds up just by virtue of there not really being anything like it. And they really did do it. I think they did the game that they were trying to make, they did it correctly from the get-go. It's just that other developers didn't really copy it like they copied Mario 64.
indeed.
Yeah.
But still, it was a very important game, right? And
Mhm.
that's kind of the theme of E3 96. I'm finding is like this was like the year where like big things were happening. This was also when Capcom finally demoed Resident Evil again, go on to become a huge game. Less huge, but they showed off Star Gladiator, which was their first
maybe to
3D
you.
fighting game. Yeah,
Number one
I
for
mean,
me.
Bilstein's
No,
Nightmare or whatever. Nightmare of
Well,
Bilstein, the sequel.
That's the second
That's
one,
the-
I think.
yeah,
the
yeah.
first
It
one
is.
is like Star Gladiator: The Final Battle.
Yeah,
The
Yes.
first one is straight up the
episode
final
one,
battle.
the final battle. Yeah, so they were already big plans. That plays great though, and I actually do like the whole universe of Star Gladiator. I bought that the day it came out, so
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's also worth mentioning. I haven't mentioned Sega yet. Sega actually came out strong in '96. I mean, they had a bunch of stuff coming. I mean, they had the big ones they showed at this show was Nights into Dreams and Sonic Extreme. Knights, of course, like they had like a full like Knights character and like the rings hanging from the ceiling of the convention floor and like lots of demo stations there. And it was like, hey, here's the next game from the creators of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's kind of a big deal, right? Meanwhile, Sonic Extreme, as we would find out, was not from them. And that was a whole different thing. But it was playable at the show floor. And I specifically remember reading about that in magazines and thinking, like, seeing those screenshots and be like, whoa, like this is the Saturn's pretty capable,
yeah.
right? Like this looked great.
I remember being super hyped for it, and didn't correct me if I'm wrong, John, but didn't like that. Maybe not that demo, but one of the Sonic Extreme prototypes was based on like the boss battle engine for Knights, and it got them in trouble internally with Sega.
Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
Yuji Naka like lost his shit because he was insane, from as we understand now. But
He's still
yeah,
out there.
that was
He can still find you.
now what. So I will tell you this though. When Electronic Arts was showing off Road Rash, they showed off the next gen, like the Saturn and PlayStation versions at that E3. And in some of the footage I was watching for this again, do you know what they're displaying it on? NEC XM29s, the exact
Jeez.
freaking monitor that I have and is broken and has been broken for a year. The my favorite screen, and it's down. And I'm like, wait a minute, they're using XM29s there at the show floor, and there's a bunch of them, and I'm just like, oh.
And
You
they're
know they
probably
ended up
all
either-
destroyed.
They're
Yeah.
all destroyed, I'm sure, like in a landfill or like long gone, and that just makes me sad. But it shows that they had really good taste. I'm sure they chose them because, like the Sony PVMs of the era, they were like cube shaped and stackable and like
Yeah.
really designed for shows like this. So
Yeah.
it made sense. But damn. So E3 96 again, the magazine years for me, but looking back, it was such a huge show. And E3 97, I think, kind of continued that. And so went 98, right? And this was a weird one. Try, you mentioned they moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, this was just down to like scheduling issues with the LACC where they couldn't actually get in there as they wanted to, and they had to move to Atlanta. Instead, they just needed another place to go, and that's where it went. So, but this was the year that we got, so 97. The biggest one for me, and I remember this on covers, was Half-Life. So this is the beginning.
At all.
I read a lot of PC gaming magazines.
Yeah, I was gonna
right?
say I think we read different magazines, man.
And it was a huge cover story. This was like the beginning of Valve. They had an interview with Gabe Newell, who had quit Microsoft and went to start the studio using the Quake engine. And famously, everything that was shown at E3 that year would end up not shipping at all because, as they would do again with Half-Life 2, they built the whole game and then decided it wasn't good enough and they scrapped it and they started over and rebuilt the whole game. So everything showed at E3 97 was just like their first stab at Half-Life. And that was all those original screenshots. It has like the scientists that look like insane. Like, are you insane? And they were. But it was cool. And that was a big deal on PC gaming magazines. This was also when Unreal itself, like Unreal the game, was shown off in more detail. In both Half-Life and Unreal, there are demos from this period that have been leaked out there. So you can actually see this stuff and play it on period appropriate hardware. And I think that itself is super cool. I did a DF Retro in Unreal last year and like dug into all those old prototypes. There's so many of them. And you can absolutely recreate all the screenshots from the magazines of that era, which is so cool. But on the game side, the game console side rather, this is when we saw Metal Gear Solid unveiled. Do you guys remember
the first one
I remember
revealed?
it, yes. I remember it vividly.
See, I just remember this from magazines.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember. This was actually, this specifically from E3 was shown. I would like to say was shown on Sky, like the British channel, during like a tech show segment. I just remember that it was being shown on TV, and they were showing off Metal Gear from the E3, and they had no reference or idea of it. It was just kind of like, this is what's coming. This is one of the games. It's very kind of bypassing. But I remember just kind of being like, Metal Gear's coming back, and like it looked like they were kind of. I remember seeing that it was like kind of overhead, and you were still walking in these same patterns as on the NES and MSX, because at this point I had played the MSX games thanks to Tom, and I was just like, wow, okay.
See, that's interesting because I didn't know about Metal Gear. I had never played the NES game. I had no familiarity with it. I did know Snatcher, but I didn't like associate the two or anything. I was just like, oh, it's like this. I feel like the trailer was on something, like maybe a demo disc or like somewhere, because I can still recall it because it was like
magazine,
a CGI. Right? Yeah, it was probably the magazine, but it was like a CGI style trailer, right? With the
like official
with the ninja
PlayStation
in
magazine
it.
Or something.
Yeah,
it might have been something like that.
It must have been something like that because I definitely saw the trailer and remember thinking that looked cool. And that was right around the time when I was starting to pay attention to consoles again. Even though I was like hardcore in PC, I was like, maybe I need one of these.
Yeah,
I would get Saturn and then a PlayStation, but not an N64. Sorry, try. I didn't get one until many years later.
I mean, I was aware of when Metal Gear Solid released because I bought that on day one, and I had played the NES game, and I had played Snatcher. I'd gotten Snatcher on day one, so I was familiar with Kojima's game at that time. But I guess I probably didn't know him by name.
No one did, man.
Well.
Like,
yeah,
if someone said it, like maybe like James Milkey, like the people in the industry knew, but like even for me who were playing like the Oasis translated MSX games, I had no idea about that name.
Right.
Interesting. This was also the era of edutainment and like CD-ROM still exploding. So like the Pippin @mark was there, which is the Bandai Apple sort of like collaboration that they did. And I think there was just more like that sort of stuff there. But of course, PlayStation itself was here. I think Tekken 3 was shown off there. DVD-ROM started to appear on the PC. This was the year when you could start to buy a drive for your PC that was DVD. And this was like really early. Like DVD was so super new at this point. Like it was like super cutting edge. Most people did not have a DVD player, let alone a DVD-ROM drive. But there was all this talk about, hey, what if you had a DVD drive in your computer and you could like get better video or like, stuff
more
like that.
Space and better video. And yeah, I mean, you started seeing articles about DVD in like the mid 90s. Like they were working on that tech for quite some time.
I mean, Corey, didn't you get a DVD player? Like the first year they were
I got a DVD
available?
player in 1997.
That's
Yeah.
insane to me. That is so insane.
that
to
was-
me.
Wow.
It was like nothing at that. Like I didn't get it at that time, but I have friends that like were super into movie and video and like
Yeah.
audiophiles and whatnot, and
Yeah.
like I just remember that. And it wasn't until like PlayStation 2 that like that market
Right.
exploded. But
Yeah.
like it was around. I remember that.
That all just came from working at Electronics Boutique and working with somebody who was
okay.
way into this stuff. You know, he's also the person that talked me into getting a CD burner around that same time. And, you know, he's like, was all on the, like the Voodoo, like the dual,
SLI.
Voodoo 2s and SLI. Yeah. He was just like all into that stuff.
Four-way Sly, Voodoo 5 9000.
Exactly.
It's just funny because like I look at it now, it's like, I mean, he's a single guy, lived alone. Like, of course he's going to get in all this stuff, right? He had his
That's
apartment.
pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Just doing it, you know. He was
I guess-
in his late 20s at the time. So
Oh boy. For me, my first DVD product was a DVD ROM drive from my computer in '99, and I got that along with a Klipsch 4.1 audio system, so I could like blast DVDs on my PC. And then my next DVD player was the PlayStation 2.
For
E3 '97
most people.
also had Resident Evil 2. It had Blasto with Phil Hartman.
Oh
It
no.
had
One of his last-
Parappa the Rapper. Yeah, man. R.I.P. I love Phil
Yeah,
Hartman. He
Phil Hartman,
was the best.
Amazing.
I think Crash Bandicoot 2 was there. Gosh, there's just you could just kind of go on and on, but like needless to say, this was a big year. Like, 3D acceleration was taking off. It was cool. It continued the trend, and like all this stuff was really showing up in magazines. And that would continue the next year, where I think Symphony of the Night was also there, but it wasn't
was.
necessarily considered a big deal at the time.
It sure
No.
wasn't. It wasn't when
it
released
wasn't even a
either.
big deal after it came out either.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
'cause the
So-
one magazine notably said that it's not good because it's in 2D.
Yep. Mhm.
You know, it's
I played it
remember
quite
cover.
early, but I loved it at the time. But yeah,
same here.
So, oh man, I was looking at some footage. There's actually like a dude in a Rugrats suit walking around. So
Oh
the-
no.
Like in a diaper. Maybe he's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the Rugrats
yeah,
guy. Maybe
yeah.
he's just a attendee of
It's-
E3.
Could be. I guess the thing was there's tons of characters and just like these like mascots walking around the show floor and all these shows, and it's very funny.
I mean, I think that's the thing as we move into the 2000s now, that we're talking about what we've lost a little bit. The variety of what was on these show floors was massively more
Right.
diverse than anything you see today at like Summer Game Fest and whatnot.
And
And there's a
it
lot
was-
to be said about that.
And this is when they were like so many main franchises were being established.
Yep.
Like, but before we move there, let me just list some of the stuff that happened at E3 '98. Right, this is still Atlanta, last one in Atlanta. This is the year we got Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Half-Life Near Final Demo Show, Metal Gear Solid there, StarCraft there, Gran Turismo, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot 3, Tekken, Duke Nukem Forever was announced and shown off. I mean, there was so much stuff happening that year. But then 1999 is the year when I actually remember starting to see more video. And this is when Dreamcast was already out in Japan. And they went big on showcasing it at E3 '99. I think Nintendo named that they had a successor known as Project Dolphin. The PlayStation 2 hype started at E3 '99. They didn't have much to show, but it was like, this was kind of like
It's like a
very
Madden
early.
demo, right?
I don't think they actually showed any games yet because they had just announced they were doing it. There was a little bit of hype, and then I think it wouldn't be until September at TGS where we'd actually start to really see games. But people were already talking about PS2.
It seems to just recall that there was like a bull shot of Madden. That was like the first thing I ever saw for
Yeah.
PS2.
I actually remember, and this is an E3 memory, the news broadcast when it was revealed, when PlayStation was revealed. I remember seeing the Gran Turismo 2000 footage running at 60 FPS. And
Oh, yeah.
with those reflections, it like really caught my eye. I was like, what the heck? This is insane. So I was really, really excited for that. In 1999, I was all in on consoles again. I was super psyched for the Dreamcast, paying attention to everything. Sega did go big at E3, but they also brought out like their like Sega Mobile Assault Tour, where they were like driving buses around the country showing off the Dreamcast. I think I remember you could rent the Dreamcast at Hollywood Video, which I did. They had a lot of kiosks at like Funko Lands and such where you could play games early. I mean, it was a really big time, and all of this stuff was kind of shown off at E3. Soul Calibur was there, I guess, as well. That would have been a big year. Like, so this is like leading up to 2000. This, aside from some clips here and there, that for me this was mostly like a magazine based hype.
Still was for me as well. It was mostly magazines that I saw the stuff in. So a lot of what I remember mostly from like the late 90s E3 era like season was just a ton of bull shots. It was like so many games were doctored up for the magazines, and then you'd get the game later. It's like, it doesn't look like that. At least Bubsy looks like exactly like I remember it in the magazines.
For me, this was definitely an era of reading online a lot. I mean, I had Nintendo Power, was the only magazine I really had, but I would read about, I mostly went to IGN back in those days. But I know that I was downloading lots of videos, looking at lots of articles and screenshots online during E3 because I'm pretty sure it was the next year, 2000.
Yes.
Well, was that when they showed the GameCube? Like really unveiled it? Or...
No. That would have been actually, I think, at Shoshinkai or Space World.
Space World was the first time they showed that off.
That was the first time they revealed it. So I don't think we would have seen it yet.
Yeah, but I know that in this era, regardless, I was very involved because I remember either 2000 or 2001 being extremely concerned about the fact that I was going to be at my grandma's house when a lot of this stuff was going to be shown off because my grandma never had a computer. My dad had given me like a old laptop that his work wasn't using anymore. And I don't remember like the logistics of how I did this for the subscription, but like I like got internet through the laptop at my grandma's house somehow so I could like keep up with like all this like news that was happening around like early PS2, early GameCube reveals and stuff. Like this was all like 2000, 2001, and I was like very engaged because I like could not imagine missing E3 like as these news drops were happening, right around this, turn of the century period. Like I was very engaged on the online aspect, screenshot, whether it wasn't just video. I mean, lots of screenshots and articles and stuff. Like I was gobbling it all up.
So as we move into 2000, 2001, this is when I know for sure that I started to be able to watch video. Because I saw a lot of videos. Why? Was it because
specifically? No. Specifically, you're thinking 2000 because I guarantee you were downloading that Metal Gear Solid 2 reveal.
Dude, that I very specific. I was visiting my friend Eric's mom's apartment. We were sitting at her computer because she had better internet than us, and I specifically downloaded like an MOV, like a small like QuickTime movie of that trailer, and we watched that Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer, and just like
100 times probably.
Could not believe what was being shown, and that video was not showing it at 60 frames per second, by the way. So like we were only getting like a small taste of it, but you could still see like the things that were going on in that were like unlike anything I'd ever seen. And I was like super in on Dreamcast, but I was also like so bowled over by that all the other less great showing of PS2 games during that show kind of got brushed aside because you just see this and it's like, well, okay, this is like next generation here, right? And that was like, I so distinctly remember the video clips from that era. And this is when I think also IGN a lot would upload tons of videos for things.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember downloading so many videos from them.
No streaming, no streaming. This is downloading,
no.
baby.
You downloaded
You downloaded those videos very specifically.
And these videos were 320 by 240.
Oh, if even that,
at
man.
the biggest.
Yeah, that was
Like
man. That's
maybe
luxury.
160 by 120.
I just remember you could not necessarily stream, but you could do like real player and put the address in so
Right.
that like it could buffer.
Yeah.
And I just remember doing that and just like, so I do remember that this is kind of the time too where I was absolutely hooked in the middle of the night for me, as things were happening at E3 because they were able to kind of broadcast that news out more real time on Real Player. I don't know if that's the tagline, but it should be.
So
Yeah.
that was really, really exciting times. And E3 2000 was also, that was when Dreamcast was like, already established, and we saw like basically the next generation of games somewhere out in Japan. But like, this is where stuff like Jet Grind Radio were shown. I remember Skies of Arcadia, Grandia 2 hype, just tons of other games just showcasing. I think they were big on the online play stuff maybe, and they were showing off. I can't actually remember. I just know that there was a lot of hype around that. This was also the year when we got another really nice demo of Halo, which I was very hyped for because this was actually pre Xbox. This was still when Halo was being developed for the PC. And
Oh no, it's for Mac, right?
well, no, it was Mac and PC, right?
Okay.
Not just Mac. It was obviously associated with Mac, but Bungie had already been making games for PC as well.
And they were coming off of Myth, right?
Yeah.
Was it Myth? Yeah.
They did Myth 2, Soul Blighter, and then Halo was their next big project. And it had been shown a bit, and it was looking insane at the time. Like all the physics stuff, the size of the world, like the bump mapping, the water effects, really, really impressive. But it's interesting because this was also the E3 where we started to hear rumblings about Xbox. Because Microsoft was at E3. They were at these E3 shows, but they were mostly just showing their PC software lineup, right? PC games. But Xbox was like starting to become a thing at this point. And there was also rumors about Game Boy Advance happening around this time, but nothing was actually shown. So it's like on the Nintendo side, do you remember like at 2000, like there wasn't really anything concrete, but there was all this talk about like Nintendo's next wave of stuff is coming, right?
Right. I mean, this was for N64. This was a super dead time, and there wasn't a lot of excitement around Game
It's like
Boy.
Tony
Game Boy
Hawk, I
Color.
think, was shown off for N64.
Maybe, but I mean, it wasn't. It was something you could play on other systems. So this was. I mean, 2000, just in terms of releases, 2000, 2001, not the best years of the N64 for sure. 2000 definitely compared to 2001. I mean, 2001 was a dire year waiting for the GameCube. But this was a period of where it's like, okay, we're very much looking forward to what is next from Nintendo.
Did they show off Dinosaur Planet at this one?
No, not yet. That would
okay.
Oh, on N64, actually,
N64.
Probably.
Probably.
I mean, that was.
I remember kind of looking at that and being like, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, there was. I don't remember specifically what would have been at E3 for N64 in this year, and I don't remember again specifically when we started more concretely seeing GameCube stuff like that. That famous Ocarina of Time styled GameCube demo of Zelda.
Right.
I don't remember if that was probably Space World, I'm thinking.
Right.
But this was for Nintendo. But this was also when I was finally like fully engaged with PlayStation. I was looking forward to, the RPGs and stuff and like super excited about, that kind of stuff as well. So I was not just Nintendo by this point. So, yeah.
What's interesting though is this would have also been, so looking at some of the footage, like I saw them showing off Dragon's Lair 3D as early as 2000, like on a computer. and that
Yeah,
wouldn't
the
ship for like some
cell
years, right?
shaded one, right?
The cell
Yeah.
shaded one.
Yeah.
But what I've never been able to figure this out. Maybe somebody can. I don't even know if I can describe it well enough. So I also remember watching these videos with a friend of mine, Nathan. We downloaded tons of videos and we would like put them on CDs and like watch them all, which was a bit crazy. But there was this trailer for a PC game shown at this show, and it was so laughably bad. Like we could not stop laughing about it. It was just like it was so choppy, the camera angles were so bad, like the animation was so bad, and I just remember thinking it was the funniest thing at the time because they wanted it to be epic, but it looked like it was one of the worst looking things I'd ever seen. And I've never been able to figure out what that was.
Oh man, I'm
Oh,
dying
you're
to see
asking the
it
wrong
now.
person here. Yeah.
You're
Right?
sure this was 2000?
Yeah. It was definitely it was 2000 because that's when we would have been watching these videos. It was the summer where we played a lot of Dreamcast.
Mm,
So that was a
yeah.
weird time for that. Um and yeah, PS2 was kind of the main focus of the show beyond that. Although they did have a Simpsons wrestling like ring set up with like characters dressed as
Mm.
Marge and Homer like in the ring,
That game
which
is
that game is
insanely bad. Yeah.
it is so bad. I mean, you are the wrestling game expert, Audie, and
And
I think you can
for
agree.
yeah, for that one, it like the only story I have, because the game is just terrible. It's one of the worst games ever made. When I was writing my book and trying to contact someone that worked on it, I did get in touch with one of them, and I just got like a reply back saying, I have no interest in revisiting this time in my life or this game. Like I do not want to talk about it. And I was like, okay, it was the only insight I got into development on it. Basically, was just people didn't. It was just made very quickly, and no one wanted to talk about it.
So yeah, E3 2000, very special time. But 2001, now this is really interesting because this is the first year where there was a company called Next Gen Videos, I believe, and they put out a collection, a DVD called Future of Video Games Volume 1. And I would buy each of these, and I think I still have them all. I also got the GameSpot selection of DVDs from this era, I think they were 2002 or 2003. I forget when they started, but basically this was finally a moment in time where companies decided, hey, we're going to sell you DVD quality video from these trade
From
shows.
the
And
shows. Yeah.
I would buy these, and like my sister and I would just like literally watch the entire discs, just go down, watch every single video, and it would be like a 4 or 5 disc set. But what was great about it was the first time that you could actually see the true frame rate of content because everything was shown
Mm.
at actual 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
like it felt like you were closer than ever to seeing these games in action. And 2001 is when we saw a lot of big stuff. So like the one I really remember specifically the most, and I saw this before the DVD as well, was Jack and Daxter. That
Okay.
first trailer was revealed with that really it was a song used from another source.
Mm.
Everybody thought it was Enya at the time. It's not Enya. But
It's
I
not
remember
Conan.
the music was really good and the game looked amazing, and I'd never seen a world that detailed and large
Yeah.
before.
Mhm.
And then to find out it was all 60 FPS, it was like wow. But the disappointment from E3 stems from I really like the music in that trailer, and then the game comes out and I hate the soundtrack.
We'll
It
get
was
Yeah.
back.
so
We'll get
bad.
back into that later. By the way, this happens again at a much greater scale.
Oh boy. So that kind of stuff sucks. But 2001 though, man, this is when so PS2 is going into like arguably its best year ever. Like just so much stuff comes out this year. GameCube and Xbox are both already known quantities. They are revealed. They go big at the show. Microsoft had Bungie, weirdly enough, and Halo was shown here, but it was not shown well. The E3 demo famously was really shit and ran very poorly, and everybody was hyped for Dead or Alive 3, which was like the big title for Xbox, right? So, but and I remember watching the Halo demo from E3 and thinking, man, this is like 15 FPS. It was really bad, and I thought it looked so much worse than that older PC footage we saw. Little did I know. it would consume me over the next few years. But
Yeah.
as of
They
E3
pulled it together
2001,
like really like towards the end, I think, of development.
yes,
Like
they did.
that's kind of the whole thing, right?
We also,
So
yeah, go ahead.
I do want
Sorry.
to mention that I was at this E3.
Oh, right.
Wow.
This is the one.
Yeah, this is the one. At the time, I was doing video for a website called thenextlevel.com, and I was able to go as part of that group. And that forum was like a big part of my life. And it's kind of funny because people that I met on that forum from like '99 through like even till today, like kind of weave in and out in my life. It's kind of amazing just how influential it's been on my life and like where I am. Uh, but yeah, I was there wandering the floor and taking a bunch of photos. I'll see if I can scan some photos and put them
Don't you have
in this
footage as
video.
well, or is that from a later
The
one?
footage the footage is from 2002
Okay,
that I did
that's
not
right.
go to, but I had a friend who was able to go. He was a manager at Electronics Boutique, and I think that would allow them to also get in for free, like
Wow.
during that time.
See, for me, like 01 and 02, but 01 especially, because 01 I was an intern at Funcom, so it was the first time I kind of got a step into the industry. I didn't go to this or anything, but uh, that was when I started kind of realizing that maybe potentially one day I can get lucky enough and go to one of these. Little did I know I would go to several, but like at the time, because you're mentioning like the magazines in the US, but there was a Swedish magazine, and maybe it was called Play, or maybe that's later. But for us here in Scandinavia and Europe, like some came with VHS cassettes, but some came with actually DVDs supplied, and it has a lot of. I still have some of them, so I'll try to dig it up for this episode. But those are like super early uh, coverage of E3 at the show by these kind of wide-eyed Scandinavians, just kind of like, oh my god, look at this, uh, and it's just interesting to see because like that was how I imagined it too. And then the footage you showed me, Corey, from the ones you went to, is just kind of like reminiscent of that era. But this was when I
Yeah.
started. I was sitting on the magicbox.net and refreshing all the time to
Oh, the
see.
Magic Box.
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. I was
Oh, yeah.
refreshing
Oh,
that
yeah,
site
yeah,
all the
yeah.
time to see whatever the latest announcements
Mm-hmm.
were. Again, kind of like in the middle of the night because it's 9 hour difference. And
Yeah. Or the GIA maybe sometimes too.
yeah, and just
Magic Box, never heard of
more
that
and
one.
more. Yeah, it was really good for Japanese games, that site.
Yes.
Um,
Magic Box. Yes.
Really good site. But this was when we started getting more video coverage, just being able to download it, but also packed in. Nintendo also, for the N64 magazine, put, I think, most of their E3 lineup on a VHS cassette that I still have. That is purple colored or orange colored, actually. But you have like Luigi's Mansion, the Smash Brothers opening demo, and things like this. So like I was just fully invested in E3 because like we were starting to get so much coverage from it, both real time and then afterwards on the magazines.
That's actually a good point that there would have been like tape of earlier E3s of good quality,
Yeah,
but it's something
Sega.
that we as consumers wouldn't have really had good access to, right?
Yeah,
At
Yeah.
the time.
I feel like NoClip was uploading a lot of these old
he got like
videotapes,
Yeah, he got like
but
an
it might
archive of
be
them.
after this period, I think. But I don't know. I'd have to kind of look back through because it was all
Yeah.
from like Game Informer's archives or somebody's
It was
archives.
something like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So for me, the big one that I remember, you were going to mention like reveals from this year. For me, like I remember Silent Hill 2 being a big deal.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know
That
if it was
huge.
announced at that point, but that was the first time that I'd seen it, and the like the real time cutscenes in that game are incredible. Like the character models are just
Yeah.
staggeringly beautiful.
So for me,
But-
one of the kind of reveals had nothing to do with video games, but at this time there was a Japanese wrestling company called FMW that
Mhm.
had some placement at E3, and they brought over one of my all-time like idols, Hayabusa, and I just remember seeing footage of like him in the US and like dealing with these trade shows and stuff and being so jealous. He has passed, so I never got to meet him. But like, when I was in doing this stuff myself, that was like the guy I emulated. So I just remember that like I was so jealous of the fact that like these Swedes with like wide eyes got to be in the presence of a living legend like that. And because I think Tokyo Pop had some sort of booth there, and they brought them over because they were doing DVDs and whatnot of that company.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater had always already been like a big hit, but this was, I feel like 2001 was when they really expanded the whole Activision O2 line, and then they had Dave Mirra, BMX, and like
Tony,
the Pro Surfer and stuff like that. Because I
Kelly
remember
Slater. There was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 coming later that year as well.
Right,
it was huge.
Right. Yeah, so because they had a big show like that, they had the half pipe there, and there was skaters in there, and I think a friend of mine got their photo taken with Bucky Lassick, I think.
Wow, another
wow. See, that's the kind of thing. Looking at footage and this wouldn't have really usually been on the DVDs, unfortunately, but like footage of the stuff happening on the floor, and I have seen some other footage of that where you've got like half pipes and like all these stage shows, and there's dancing, and it's just crazy business happening. Not to mention the parties.
No, I mean, this is still active by the time I started going, so we'll have some firsthand reports on that.
And Corey, you interviewed Victor Island or met him or something.
Well, because I was part of that website, we got to have. I got to go to a couple of the meetings, and that was the first time I met Victor Ireland, and that was.
Oh, nice.
Lunar 2 was complete edition was about, or Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete was about to come out. So that's when I got to meet him, and it was cool. Yeah, I got a free copy of Sylphie the Lost Planet during that.
Oh,
and they said that they were thinking about developing or porting games or translating games for the GameCube, which obviously never ended up happening.
That definitely did not. But yeah, man, E3 2001 was such a huge year, I think. And it was I mean, just as a year in general, that was one of the best that I can ever remember. And it to set the stage for that entire next generation in a big way. It was also the final E3 for the Dreamcast. They'd already announced that they were discontinuing it, but there was still some E3 presence with Sega and Dreamcast at the show.
Yeah.
But really, this was about PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube in a big way. And of course, the PC was there too.
And I've mentioned it before, but I think that one of the funniest things to talk about, or at the time we didn't think it was a big deal, but there was people saying like, oh my God, I played Grand Theft Auto 3. It was just kind of like in this side booth, like out of the like the main area.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, it's incredible. I can't believe what they were doing with it. And at that time, nobody knew what was in store for them, how that would change the entire landscape of video games.
So the big question I have kind of going forward is, I don't remember what year, but right around this time is when we actually started to get to see press conferences live.
2004 was when you...
2004.
No, I think 2003 had it as well.
That's when you had it, but like 2004 was when they started putting that stuff like scheduled in and people were locked in. Like it was sporadic. I think GameSpot had a couple of them in 2003.
GameSpot was the most reliable one that I recall.
Had the best bit rate of that time, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the closest analogy I can make today is, the frustration that people have trying to pre-order new consoles and new anything that needs a pre-order today, and the websites break and you can't get in and you don't get in and you're frustrated and angry and mad. That's what just watching a live video game presentation was back in these days. Like, it was, you had to wait so long for the page to even load. Like, you didn't know if you were actually going to get into the page. And, people were, having all these theories like, oh, if you do this, if you do that, or open that in a different browser or whatever. It was like really nerve-wracking whether you were going to get to see this event live. But that was when E3, I think, started to get really cool for me, was seeing the press conferences live.
So I think that would have been 2003, but 2002, I don't think they were showing things live yet, or if they were, I wasn't able to
I
catch
can't
it. But
remember. I would
that
have
was still
noticed.
a big year, right? This is when we saw Wind Waker at E3. There was
That I
Super
remember.
Mario Sunshine there, Resident Evil Zero, Star Fox Adventures. You know, I guess Metroid Prime probably would have been there. Splinter Cell was shown off, and like
Panzer Dragoon Orta.
Orta. Xbox Live was unveiled, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And it was just, it was another big year, I would say, for a lot of games. But
the image in my head for this year is Miyamoto coming in from the back of the theater playing Super Mario Sunshine all the way from the back with a wave bird. And he's like slowly walking up to the
Space World or
stage.
E3?
I think it was E3. I'm pretty sure it was E3.
Okay. I remember the footage, but at this time, I just remember that like Nintendo was really like you were getting way more content out of Nintendo at Space World than you ever got out of E3 at this era.
I think that I'm pretty sure it's a largely American audience in this footage, but maybe I could be misremembering. But I'm pretty sure this is E3, where we already knew about the Wavebird, we already knew about Mario Sunshine, but he's like all the way in the back playing this wirelessly, and working his way up to the stage. I'm pretty sure that's E3
now, John,
2002.
At this E3, would they have been playing Sunshine at 60 or 30? Because that change happened from Space World to sometime, right?
I would need to find some footage. I suspect it would be 30 at this point because the game was close to ship. But you're right. That Space World footage was all 60 FPS.
That's the first time I ever saw it, and that
was shown again. And that's actually a really interesting point, Audie, because it would have been due to either TV broadcast or some sort of DVD, because I somehow was able to see the 60 FPS footage back then.
I had it too. I think it was packed. I'll try to find it, but it's definitely on a DVD I have, like the Space World demo for Mario. You have like Miyamoto like showing it, and then it fades into the 60 frames per second demo. And I was super hyped for that, and I still like Sunshine, but that was definitely one of the games where I started really being like, the difference between a platformer at 30 and 60 is pretty massive. And for Mario, I was very disappointed when I first played it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely aware. So it would have been, it was the Space World 2001 footage. And yeah, there is footage out there that shows exactly what I saw. It was from Kikizo.
Yeah, Kikizo, I remember that site.
But I guess they somehow were able to upload at 60 FPS as well. But then at E3 2002, it does seem, I found some footage of the press conference here.
Okay.
That does seem to be 30.
Okay.
And it looks pretty much like the final game. So like that early Space Road footage looked really different from what would ship, I would say.
Yes.
And then, by the time they showed it again, it had changed a lot and was now just 30, which is a shame.
That Space World demo, and it might be in the final game, but it has a really good arrangement of the Mario music with like a ukulele. And I don't think it's ever been released. So
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Now, before we move on from 2002 here, there's actually a couple more interesting things I want to mention on the PC side. First of all, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I would say arguably the biggest game of that show, and the one that I watched the most in video form, was Doom 3. Doom 3 was already known. Apple id Software demonstrated it at an Apple conference to showcase what they were doing on like the GeForce 3 or something. But 2002 is when id finally unveiled that full demo of Doom 3, and it's the same demo that would eventually leak to the internet, if you recall, which caused a huge issue for them. And I, of course, downloaded and played it, but yeah, it was very broken. It was not intended for public use. But either way, that demo was incredible looking. Like, that was such a next generational leap in terms of visuals, like unlike anything we'd ever seen. Because what Doom 3 was doing already was like basically showcasing all the new technologies that we would start to see in the next generation of consoles. but in 2002. So like everything casts a shadow. You had full unified shadows and lighting. So you had pixel
Yeah.
shaders, per pixel lighting, bump mapping, full shadows, stencil shadows on everything. Just like huge, incredible animation work. Just crazy effects. Like it just looked like it was truly like beyond anything that ever existed before, I would say.
Didn't John
Like,
Carmack kind of infamously pitch this as like the final step to like unify all elements of a graphics engine together? And but yeah, that engine was only really good at making games that look like Doom 3.
I mean, yeah, there was definitely some talk of that, but it was really just limitations of like the era, right? Like, because doing unified lighting like that is expensive, and it was very expensive at the time. So naturally, it wasn't super fast. Certainly in 2002, but that was a big headline. But as we only learned much later, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but on the anniversary of Half-Life 2, in 2024, Valve released the E3 2002 demo of Half-Life 2 footage. Half-Life 2 was not shown at E3 2002. Instead, as we would learn, they had been building a demo for Half-Life 2 to show at E3 2002, and Gabe Newell made the decision to not show it because he felt it wasn't good enough. And they actually revealed footage. It's like a 27-minute video on the Valve YouTube channel showcasing it. And it's like fighting sand lions and stuff in the desert. It looks very different from the final game, and I would say nowhere near as impressive as what they would show the following year, which we'll get to. It's didn't have a lot of those elements, and the weapons look weird. Actually, the weapon that Gordon's using in most of the demo looks like something out of Red Faction rather than Half-Life 2. So it's weird, but that was another one. But that year on the PC, also we got Warcraft 3 was demonstrated. World of Warcraft was super early and shown, both very, very big. Max Payne 2 got announced, and then there was even stuff like America's Army. Do you remember
Oh
that?
yeah. That was like the U.S. Army sponsored game, right? It was like a recruitment thing.
It was basically, yeah. It was like, hey, what if we did like Counter-Strike, but
Yeah.
it was like sponsored by the American Army, and but it was apparent I didn't really play it much, but it was apparently pretty good. So, and that was shown
Yeah.
there. But E3 2003, this I do think is the first year I would have done streaming, because this is the year where I first got a Panasonic ED TV, which was 480p capable. Actually, it could do 1080i as well. So I guess it's technically HD TV. But I was able to start piping video from my computer into the TV at 480p. And that was such a big deal because I could watch videos from the PC on that TV. And I invited friends of mine over, and we gathered around that TV with my PC plugged in and watched the jankiest live stream you could imagine. I remember being so stressed
Well,
by
that's
the
what I
way
was
it
going
would
to say.
disconnect and buffer
Yes.
and get nasty. And you're just like, ah.
It was so stressful. Like this was just like a moment that you just like could not imagine missing out on.
Right. Like I was like really hyped for this, and we had prepared everything for this, and it just like, man, it was brutal being able
You
to
didn't
watch
feel like
it.
it was the future?
No. I felt like I was doing something illicit almost.
Yeah, you're doing it in a way that was not supposed to be done.
But like basically each year things would get better in terms of like stream quality, but early on, I mean, it was bad. And I remember that was the year
hairy for a number of years.
And the reason I think it was that year is because I believe at the Nintendo conference, that's the first time they showed Resident Evil 4, maybe, or the first time I remember when it was the Hookman demo, where they announced Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Maybe this was like post Capcom 5 or during that whole period, but
I think it was during that period.
they showed off RE4 and it looked insane. And I remember thinking like, oh dude, like this is going to be so cool.
Believe
so cool.
it. Yeah, I was very invested into RE4 throughout its development. I remember this.
So and that was also the conference that had like Iwata on stage when he was still very like new. I think George Harrison uh would have still been up there, and I think of course they probably would have gotten Miyamoto at some point. I think that was the show. I do remember this was the era of Nintendo being obsessed with connectivity. You remember that
Yeah.
try? Like everything was like, oh, we can do this now. We got Pac-Man Versus, which is great.
Game Boy Advance,
Crystal
like
Chronicles. It was the idea of
yeah.
connecting your Game Boy Advance
Right.
to your GameCube, and
I do
Nintendo
remember
harped on
that
that
being.
so big.
They spent a long time on Pac-Man Versus, I think, if I recall.
They sure did.
And but people like always say, like, I've never played it, but people say it's amazing, I guess. But at the time,
I mean,
watching
most of the
this on show
experiences with-
didn't seem very exciting.
I mean, all the experiences I've had with connecting Game Boy Advance to GameCube was great. Tom and I played like Crystal Chronicles, Pac-Man. It was like Four Swords eventually. So I
Mhm.
mean, they had a great product in it. It's just it really didn't catch on. Most people did not.
The barrier for entry was too great.
Yeah, and I remember hating that connector. At least maybe mine was slightly damaged on the little hook thing, but like it kept like falling out. So like, yeah. I mean, the experience
It-
itself was great with the Game Boy connectivity.
And this would this have been the pre GBA SP too? So you're still like dealing with like the darker screen and everything while doing this.
I don't remember.
I
I feel like the
don't-
SP would have been out by then.
SP is 2002.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure SP was out.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
so I also remember this was another year of like really great demos being shown. We got that amazing trailer of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater,
Mhm.
which I was on the Gaming Age forums, GAF, at the time.
Yep.
I'd been on them since like 2000. And I remember, I feel like the Metal Gear Solid 3 trailer, like a bit of it leaked out early, like because we were all excited for E3. And I remember seeing a little bit of this, and everybody was like, wait, what is this? Like it's like jungle and stuff. And it was super cool. This was also the year when Xbox showed Halo 2, where it had that really epic demo.
Oh yeah.
in New Mombasa.
It's not even in the game.
It's not
Yeah.
in the game, and spoilers. I should be able to finally feature this properly on DF because we have obtained an Xbox with the 120 megabytes modded in, and it has that Halo 2 E3 demo installed on it.
Oh,
So I will finally be able to play it on a real Xbox soon. So,
wow.
That's funny.
but that was awesome at the time, and it really looked crazy.
Yeah.
And then also, Doom 3 was shown again, but this is the year when Half-Life 2 actually was revealed. And I gotta ask, do you guys remember this?
No,
'Cause to me, this was like world shattering. My
I
goodness.
was
You guys
I was not into Half-Life, dude.
I mean, I
Dude,
wasn't into PCs.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
thing
I
is,
do
it's
not
like-
remember this.
Doom 3 was already mind-blowing, but then Half-Life 2, they do
I
that
remember Doom
very-
3. I love Doom 3. It was that was my Doom basically, because it was like more narrative driven and more single player experienced. Whereas Doom 1 and 2, I was just never good at. But Half-Life, I was very
So-
late to the party.
The Half-Life demo was so exciting to me because this was again another one of those moments where you feel like you're getting a tease of next gen. It was like a 27 minute video or presentation from Valve. Gabe Newell in the room, and this was them introducing Source Engine for the first time. And they start by like showcasing like, hey, Source Engine has physics. They show like breaking wood and having it splinter. They show like a fake pachinko machine with barrels falling down through it. They've got water to show buoyancy. It's like just this idea like when you shoot like all these wood things together, they actually kind of all like shake around and break apart, and it just feels so realistic and visceral at the time. It was genuinely mind blowing. And then they started showing off like, hey, we have this thing. It's called normal maps. You guys ever heard of that? And obviously that would go on to define textured surfaces going forward. Lots of special effects and like the most amazing water anybody ever seen. And then it ran through a bunch of scenarios showing different elements that they would plan to ship in the game. And it's like a series of short vignettes. Like it shows Dr. Kleiner's lab, but the big one was like they show Ravenholm, and this idea like in the final game doesn't even have this. Like you see an enemy and immediately like they have Gordon run into this house, close the door, and like enemies are chasing him down, and like you actually see, you know, those like slats that they would sometimes put in front of windows where it's like tall skinny things connected at the top, and then you would like pull a cord to like cover the window. They have a window with those, and you see like the enemies actually like hitting each one, and they're like breaking apart and flapping around. They're like coming in and trying to get into the building. Gordon pushes a table with stuff on it in front of the door to block it, and then the Combine kicks open the door and like everything goes flying. And it's just like it's just this like example of just crazy cool stuff happening. It's got the gravity gun. uh I'm so, I know you guys weren't into PC games, but I'm really surprised that you totally missed this, because it really like
I may have seen some of it at the time because I mean I remember I didn't have a computer good enough to really run a game like this until 2006, and you know
sure.
even then I was blown away by it when I tried it. But yeah, I don't really know when I first started paying attention to Half-Life 2. It may have already been out. I'm not sure.
I
No,
remember
that's
like
fair.
Tom playing it when it came out because he's into Half Life, but I
Yeah.
don't remember like that this being showcased.
I mean,
But it
I do
sounds more
think
like the
Half-Life 2 is.
Conduit stole the trailer from it, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do think Half-Life 2 is one of the most amazing games ever made, but just at the time, I was not really looking at PC stuff.
And that's the thing, right? Maybe it's because I was posting on forums and stuff, and also still into
Yeah.
PC games. But like, just seeing like, it's a kind of feeling you don't really get from like shows these days. But like when Valve showed Half-Life 2, you felt like you were just seeing things that had never been made before. It
Hmm.
genuinely felt like a glimpse into the future. There was just stuff going on in that trailer where you're like, this is unbelievable. Like I
And
cannot
no
believe
one
that
can
they're making
recreate
a
that
game.
these days. Like that
No,
can't
no,
that can't
it's
be
almost
done.
impossible to do it.
Yeah.
And I love the way they built this into all those vignettes where like the person in the demo room could guide the player through each one of these vignettes so they can show off all these different pieces from the game to give you an idea of all the different types of things you can do. And this heavy focus on physics along with cutting edge graphics was really like the next step. Like games just didn't have physics like this before Half-Life 2, and it was crazy. So yeah,
I'll take your word for it.
I can't help but gush at this. It was a very special moment. I watched this video so many times. It really sticks with me. It's just one of the coolest things. So, and then man, there's so, we can't talk about every E3. Like E3 2004,
I was gonna say like
like
we're over 2 hours at this point. I'm kind of getting a little nervous because we still have another 16 to go.
We haven't even started going to
No.
them yet. Like we're still.
So I guess let's just say 2004, another
No,
banger year.
You can't just say a banger year because this 2004 is the last one of this era we need to talk about because that was, you know,
So yeah, Audie, take us through 2004. Take us through it.
well, so this was definitely a year that like you were talking about live streaming. I remember this was the year that I watched all of them live. They were all on GameSpot. They were all being heavily promoted and just like it was counting down. It was an event, and I remember sitting there with my friends. Uh, and it was my last year of school, so I just remember that like Nintendo had their show at an hour where I think at the end of the day we were able to sit down and watch it together on the broadband network there. And I think this was kind of where those live presentations were solidified as must-see events because that was when Reggie Fils-Aimé came out
Mm,
and did the legendary line.
Yes.
And my God, that live show was when you
exhilarating.
watch it today, it's not that they were showing off like banger after banger, but what they were showing off and the way they showed it off for Nintendo especially was
Right.
just like it really was kicking your ass. And
Dude,
you
Yeah.
saw the
I agree.
DS. You had like Reggie, who was absolutely opposite of anything that we had been trained as like Nintendo friendly. I think he was a Pizza Hut before this. So just fueled by pepperoni. But and then of course there was the Twilight Princess reveal. That was like finally after all these years of Wind Waker kind of. Now people love Wind Waker, and I did.
Right.
But it was not beloved by the general populace.
Right. I mean,
and so here you had this reveal of like return to form, and you were mentioning earlier about trailer music. I remember like getting out of my chair for this because it was using the Conan music as a trailer music, and I was like, "Holy like, are they gonna use Basil for the soundtrack here?" And they were not. But it fits so well. But this live show of them revealing the DS, which was like incredible.
That's the jacket pull, the classic jacket pull.
Yeah, jacket pull. And then remember they were showing off like the trailer for Zelda, and they faded to Miyamoto on stage with like the lighting on him, holding the shield and sword, and people were on their feet, and it was just like you got swept up. And for me, that was the moment that I was like, I am going, like, no matter what it takes, I have to go to E3. Like, there is just no way I can ever allow myself.
It changed your life.
It did, absolutely.
I feel like if you put out like a poll of like what is the most iconic E3 conference from any like console manufacturer, I think this would be the one.
This is the one they were chasing ever since. This was what when people talk about that they miss the conferences, this is what they're missing.
This is what they miss. Yep.
You never really got to the high again. Wii Music maybe.
No.
But other than that,
dude, you didn't even mention the intro. Like before Reggie comes on stage, they have that epic music with like worlds worth exploring and battles worth fighting, all that, and like it's like so epic and beyond. It's very different from what Nintendo had been doing, as you noted. Like they were all about like cuteness. They were people called Nintendo Kitty. It was like, connectivity, and this felt like them being like, nah, we're doing something else, which is funny because then they would do the Wii, which is all about
sure
the next year does
as someone who is like very much Nintendo first, like this was a moment like the whole Nintendo community had been waiting for, right? Like this was a moment where you no longer like felt ashamed to be a Nintendo fan. Like
they set the stage.
I mean, yeah, but like for at least for a moment, it felt like Nintendo was like the coolest thing in the universe. And this
it didn't feel like that the next year, but like this year it was everything. Like that Twilight Princess trailer, man. I have the DVD still of that at like real good quality, and I just remember watching that over and over. It's ironically one of my least favorite Zeldas. But when that was revealed,
man, I mean,
I couldn't believe it. That specific trailer.
I've heard that people were in tears in the audience. Like,
I mean, people.
Is that where the meme comes from?
I think that's where the
sitting there,
the IGN meme. I think that's where
just sitting there and then being like this.
No, it's IGN guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that was 2004 though. I think that was in the.
I can't remember. It may have been an earlier one. Or later, I don't know. I could have sworn it was that one though because of the Zelda reveal at the end.
Could be.
Maybe.
I don't
maybe. But man,
either way,
you can't top that
times,
show.
Dude.
You can't top that show. That's just
the thing. E3.
The thing is though, the DS didn't come out of that looking all that good. That's the thing, right? Because this is also the E3 where Sony revealed the PSP. And the PSP like blew the doors out of like people unfairly were like, oh, the DS is like nothing. And the PSP is
well,
like,
the DS did have a bad launch lineup as well. So
it had just didn't have like the Yoshi Topsy-Turvy and the Kirby.
No. Yoshi Touch and Go Topsy-Turvy was an even significantly worse GBA game. Yeah,
that's right.
Topsy-Turvy.
Bad Yoshi games. But
and not a great Kirby game.
You know what? Well, I know
was the Yoshi Gravitational really or what was?
Yeah, that's Topsy-Turvy. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing that always surprises me about this showing of the DS here is how relatively close it is to launch, and then the final unit doesn't look anything like this. Like, it's insane to me that all of that physical change and all of the launch units being manufactured happened, I guess, after this E3. Like, did they know that it wasn't going to launch looking like that at this show? Because like it's got that black border and stuff. It's a totally different look.
It's very
Um,
weird, right? Especially because, like, at the same show, like the PSP again, the PSP was final looking hardware at E3, and it was like one of the most beautiful like objects I
Oh
feel like I'd
yeah,
ever
oh
looked
yeah,
at. I
oh
Jesus
never
yeah.
laid
Christ.
eyes. I'm not
This
kidding,
is
dude.
not.
I
It
mean,
was
This is not how I remember it.
S
really
tier,
like the
S
hype
No,
was
tier
insane,
console
dude.
design for the
Was the
PSP.
hype that big? I remember like
Yes, it was
PSP and
huge,
DS
dude. It
being
was
very
huge.
split, like 50-50, that like you had the crowd
No, the
like you were
PSP looked
saying.
No,
pretty
no, no, no,
revolutionary
no.
with the quality of its screen for the time.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
don't
was
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
PSP was like,
Well,
I mean, everybody, and when they launched earlier, that's when you got like John Riccardi and them back in Japan when it came out. They made that joke picture with everybody playing Ridge Racer and then the DS going like, "Hey, anybody want to play or something?" Using
yeah,
picture
yeah,
chat.
yeah.
Like
Well,
the
I think
idea at the
it's
time was basically
Not
like,
feel the
"Hey,
magic.
I
yeah,
think it's also important to remember that Nintendo was pitching the DS as a third pillar at the time
the
because they
third pillar."
themselves
Yes.
weren't that confident like this concept could work as a official replacement for the GBA. Like they didn't want to set, have GBA right off into the sunset until they were sure that DS was going to really stick. And it didn't stick at first. It was tough getting that going.
In now that everything's shaken out, actually, this is a fun thing. In my personal opinion, I like the PSP more than the DS. I
I
love
do
the
too.
DS, but the
Yeah,
DS
same.
is a game that's so heavy on games that require you to commit a lot of time. Whereas I feel like the PSP has so many more games that you can just pick up still and have a great time with like
Yeah.
right away.
I
Except for
did
Ultimate Ghosts and
not
Ghosts
No,
or Ghosts and Goblins.
I gave up on the PSP. I like sold my PSP after a bit because I feel like the early PSP just was not doing it for me. So I definitely played a lot more DS when it was new, but then when I got back into PSP, I do agree. PSP is a much more enjoyable system for me to revisit today than the DS is. But the
Is
DS
New
in
Super
its
exactly.
Mario Brothers when that changes?
Maybe.
I think
Is
it was
that
that
kinda-
plus that was
I
when
mean,
also the DS Lite, the DS Lite
yeah,
was
the
a big deal.
DS Lite, which came out around the same time as New Super Mario Brothers, but it was Kirby and Kirby Canvas Curse and like Advance Wars Dual Strike, like that was when the DS started really turning around, I think. But yeah, it
That's right.
was.
Maybe Animal Crossing.
I just
Yeah,
remember
I
the
think
Ditto chat.
DS was at a good point by Animal Crossing, I think. But that first like half year was pretty bad for the DS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amusingly though, at E3 2004, Doom 3, Half-Life 2, MGS3, Halo 2, all of them, they still weren't out yet. They would all come out later that year, which is insane. But the presentations that year were worse. Like Halo 2, they showed just the multiplayer, and it was such an anemic and boring presentation compared to 2003. Even though the game turned out awesome, but like the presentation was not great. Uh I feel like
And the multiplayer was awesome in that game too. I mean,
it was. It was just a demo problem.
it just didn't work very well on stage.
Exactly.
John,
This
I
would have
need
been
to
the
know
year. What?
when did Tak Fuji start coming to E3? When did Tak
Oh,
Fuji
that would have
become
been-
famous?
Later on. Later
That
on.
was
That's like
definitely much later.
Okay.
2010 maybe.
Really? That
20
no.
yeah.
Crapping around the Frogger?
Oh
Wasn't that-
right. No, that could have been. That would have been after this though. We don't. Yeah, it's because it's a Frogger. We don't crap around the Frogger.
We don't crap around the Frogger.
As he famously said in an interview.
We don't crap around the
don't crap-
Frogger.
We don't crap around the Frogger. All right, for this episode, let's wrap up with E3 2005. Okay, because I feel like this is like a turning point because this is when all the new stuff was being revealed. And this was also a weird time because this is when I was living in Japan. So like I was watching stuff from afar. And I actually did get to go to TGS that year and I saw PlayStation 3 there.
Huh.
But
Oh wow.
it was really shown off for the first time properly at this show. And Xbox 360 also shown off, as well as the Revolution prototype. But
That's what I remember
famously,
most.
this is the one where Sony went nuts and like showcased a PS3 that ultimately would never exist.
The
Right?
boomerang
the horrible
controller and stuff?
controller. Yeah.
Boomerang year. This is the year with all the demos like Killzone 2,
Yeah.
Motor Storm, all the bullshot demos where it's all these like
Yeah.
either CGI trailers or like pie in the sky stuff. Basically, they like blew the doors off of everyone's expectations. It looked insane, but it was also not real at all.
Yeah. You don't know. There's a video on DF.
Yes,
Go over that presentation.
we go
Yeah.
to if you want to see more on that. There's a
Yeah.
big video on it.
And
360 as well, we've covered.
watch the re-edited version that has 2005 and 2006 together Sony conferences because they have
Oh,
much better
right.
source
Back to
footage.
back. Exactly. And 360, the same deal. We've looked at that. The 360 showing was actually not good. They had the Elijah Wood thing on MTV, which was okay. And then the
Oh
E3
yeah,
showing
yeah,
was
yeah. I remember
fine,
watching
but
that.
compared to what PS3 was doing, it felt like it didn't feel like a full generational leap at the time. In retrospect,
Right.
obviously
At the
360
time.
would be awesome, but the first impressions were not amazing. And Nintendo, of course, was still to be seen.
Yeah. The revolution.
They talked about the revolution. This is also, I think, when Iwata famously said, "You will say wow" about the graphics.
So the funny thing about this E3 for me was, at the time I was in a very tight knit, very small forum community, and there was this guy who claimed to go to E3. And he said enough things over the years to like make that seem sort of plausible, but we were starting to have our doubts about him because there were some things that he's like, "Oh, I played this behind closed doors and this and that." And we're like, I don't know. This year, like he said that he played Revolution behind closed doors and it was like this VR headset. And it was
Yeah,
like
buddy,
a VR headset, and it was like the most incredible thing he'd ever seen. He was playing this Mario game, and there's like fireballs whizzing past my head and stuff.
Yeah.
And this was, and me and like a few of our other friends really like caught on to him at this point, and we're like really egging him on and like trying to see like what kind of like even more ridiculous things we could get him to actually say that were like absolutely not true. So yeah,
Well,
because everyone wanted to know, what is the revolution? We didn't know yet.
Well, so remember what
Right.
leading up to E3, there was kind of like there's some not validity to what your friend was saying, but at this time, because like from E3 2004 to 2005, like Nintendo, there was a lot of expectations, and then but remember at this time there was a rampant rumor that Nintendo On, that VR like spherical
Oh.
headset was
Oh,
the next
yeah.
thing, and someone made like this is before AI and all
Oh,
this
the
bullshit, right?
the crazy video.
And that's
Mario
and
video,
that's
yes.
like yes, with the Mario video, which is kind of
Yes.
similar to what your friend is talking about. And I think like a lot of people were running with Nintendo On.
that gave
this is-
credibility to his.
and
This
that
is what
yes,
he
because
said,
this
yeah.
was before E3. This was leading up, and I remember months and months. And at this point, I was in my very early stages of being actually in the games industry, and I just remember that like that was kind of nipped in the bud, kind of early internally. And it's not that I had like great sources or anything, but I just remember that like even if you looked at the whole thing on a fact sheet, it's like this makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like this is not what
That-
Nintendo's doing.
That video was
but-
iconic though. Like at the time, it looked
I'm
so
find it
good.
and
Like
put it in
that.
this.
that-
Like we have
that-
to see it on screen right now.
That was
Uh,
the best looking like homemade 3D animation I'd ever seen.
Way before AI.
Right,
Someone
right,
sat
right,
down and
right.
crafted this. I mean, so
Yeah.
now we would praise it. At the time when people saw it, I was like, this is not real. But when you actually did see the revolution, because this, I think we all can agree, this E3 showing is not of the same caliber as what we just talked about in 2004. And I think the only thing
I can't even remember what it could have been.
They showed like Metroid.
I guess Twilight Princess was
Nintendogs was on stage.
Yeah.
Actually, at this E3, that's when Reggie pulled out the Game Boy Micro on stage.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
And
Another pull out.
which I found interesting because when you look at the video, you actually see he is in exactly the third room of Zelda Minish Cap, right? You wake up in your bed, you go downstairs, then you go from downstairs, you go right one more time. There's dialogue, right, with the characters before you can take control. He's there. And it was on when he pulls it out of the pocket. So I'm just trying to imagine before he goes out to do this, he would have had to have turned on the GBA, button through, like walk downstairs, button through a bunch of dialogue, and then just leave Link standing there just to get it ready. And because there's no sleep mode, he would have just had this in his pocket, like on.
Sure. Well, why not?
And then
that battery, we said earlier, that battery never dies.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. It's just,
So
I love thinking about these weird logistics. It's just on in his pocket.
That's actually really funny. Like, of course it is, but like you don't think about that.
Would you say though, John, that like the little mock-up of Metroid that they showed for the Revolution was indicative of what we got?
Maybe. Which one? Where
So
is
during this E3 show, when they were talking about what was next,
The
they
Revolution?
they showed Metroid. Like, not Prime, not anything. You saw Samus Aran and the ship behind her. It was just a tech demo. Like, a really, really short one. But it was
interesting.
That sounds
it
vaguely
was
familiar.
alluded that this was what was, like, this is the capabilities of what's coming next.
Right. But you know, this
that was it.
what was her name? Like Cammy something was one of the Nintendo of American employees.
Yeah.
Cammy,
Yes.
I'm trying to blank our last name, but
Cammy Dunaway or something like that?
possibly
D
Dunaway,
something
I
sounds
think.
familiar, but I remember she very infamously, I think, kind of went off script. During this was just an interview. This wasn't like a stage presentation, but people were like really trying to press like how much more powerful than the GameCube is the Revolution. And I think she just like pulled some number out of nowhere just to say something like, oh, probably like 2 to 3 times more powerful. I can't remember exactly what she said, but like this was like the first time I think there was really like alarm bells of like, wait, Nintendo might not be keeping pace with PlayStation and Xbox on the power. And people were so nervous though. But I don't think she was at all supposed to say that at the time. And I don't know if she even, if in her position, if she would have really even known yet, like if she would have actually known that much about the hardware and what Nintendo's focus would be at that point, in her position. I don't know. So that was infamous, but she was right. She was right. But that was when people started getting like really scared, and people were like, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's going to be fine. It's going to be really powerful." But no, she was right. She was right.
The thing is, though, they showed what the console would look like, and it was pretty spot on. If you looked at the size of that box,
you would know. Yeah,
holding in his hand.
Oh,
you should logically come to the conclusion that wait, this is not going to be anything like PS3 or 360.
Yeah, I mean, that was all in the discussion at the time. Like
I know, I remember.
We were realizing, and like we had a year to come to terms with that before we finally really properly saw what this is.
Amusingly, and I just noticed this now when we're looking through old video of it, the Nintendo Revolution logo, the O's in Revolution are 2 discs, right? But the Revo, the first O is a big disc, like a DVD, and then the second O is a small one, like a GameCube disc.
Okay.
Which is very clever.
Yeah. I mean, and kind of linking back to this like super cool guns blazing image that Nintendo exerted in 2004, like Revolution was like a cool name,
Yeah, it was.
But I suppose like talking any deeper about that is a conversation for another time when we get to E3 2006. Honestly, I'm excited that we've got a whole other episode some time to go through the rest of them. We haven't blown it all now.
Yeah, because at that point we start
really
going,
fun, man.
So.
Exactly. That's when things start to change a lot. So, but yeah, that's up through E3 2005. We've covered 10 years of E3 today. And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface. Like, this is such a big topic, but it's fun to talk about and think back, especially for those that maybe didn't experience it. Like, it's just like, this was where you would start to get information about things. And it was one of the only places where new stuff was actually shown or announced. You didn't have any other means to learn about this. And it was really, really exciting.
I mean, this conversation is just like really dug up like a lot of like just emotions I'd forgotten about, of just the excitement of this, and you know how revolutionary it was to start to see video and live video and stuff like that. Like, this was so in its infancy, and like people just can't understand today like how just the very concept of being able to have access to that stuff visually was just so exciting. Like, just, it was so exciting.
It really was. It was so exciting. And there's a lot more to talk about when we get to the next episode on this. We'll figure out when we do it soon, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. But for now, I want to thank you guys for being here with me as we kind of waded through all of this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was great to have you back here, Audie. It's been a while, but it's really nice to have you back on.
I'll be back next time.
Excellent. And hopefully you'll be back next time. If you made it all the way to the end of the show, I want to personally thank you for doing so, because it is a long show. We talked about a lot today, but I had fun talking about it. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with the next episode of the DF Retro Super Show. See you next time.